spooky wookie, and that means it's time for a very freaky Thanksgiving-ish Friday. We are back, but we're back with a difference this week. Scotty Lopez, my wingman, my comrade, he is taking the week off. He's having some well-earned family time. But never fear, there's always a woo crew that is near. Yes, indeed, I have drafted in the very special, the very magnificent Jimmy Jeans #1. Suspect #1, Jimmy. That's probably one of the more kind of gracious things I've called you over the years. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. I'm still hanging by a thread in FEMA Region 9, but I gotta say, hey, life's what you make it, and every day is a Freaky Friday with Kev Baker in the house, and I'm gonna tell you right now, my skin is already crawling with anticipation, Kev.
Good, we like crawling skin. Turn down the lights a bit more. If you haven't turned them down already, crank them down a notch, because it's not just me and Jimmy. No. We don't roll like that. The best Freaky Fridays, they come in threes. And, well, tonight we're having Jimmy Jeans and Kevin Squared, my brother from another mother in this universe and probably many more. It's Mr. Nacy. How are you doing, my good friend?
I myself am doing as fabulous as the universe will allow, because here we go with the lights down low, because it's the place to go when you want to know all about the woo with the crew on Freaky Friday.
You really can't top that, Jimmy, right? I mean, he's a lyrical mastermind.
Well, I think he's a poet, and he does know it, Kev. I'll tell you that. Well, what a fresh way to invite the folks into the Wookiee Cave for the version of Freaky Friday right here. What is this? Is this 27? Is that up to 9? 27, 9. It's a 9 version of a Freaky Friday tonight, man.
There you go. See? So in the chat room, if you want your Wookiee roll call, it's a coming. You've got about 30 seconds to head on over there. I'm making my way to the Wookiee Cave right now. Kevin is going to share with us some personal woo that has been happening around him, around his family. Always find the personal stuff. It really resonates the most with the audience out there. People sit on the edge of their chairs. They want to know what's coming next. And I know that people like Jimmy, and in particular Kevin, he has won a place in so many people's hearts over the years. I've known you a good few years, Jimmy, but I've known this guy probably longer. And funny, because we met under similar circumstances. We listened to similar shows, Jim. We ended up podcasting, things like that. And mine and Kevin's little story is about the same. So it's kind of weird how we all come together, and it's not an exact replay of how things play out when you meet new people, but there's an echo. But when people stay with you, the story seems to have echoes, Jimmy. Very synchronistic.
I would have to agree. There's some sort of a reverberation. It's like a wave. It's like a frequency wave. It's like a shadow of a shadow.
Oh, I like shadows of shadows, man. We do. So talking of shadows, I'll come back to your shadow in just a moment, okay? Because I can hear the Wookiees getting restless now. I can hear a bit of there's a bit of angst building in the Wookiee hangar. Yes, it's the Wookiee hangar today because it's so big. So many people in there. We've got the amazing Lucky. We have got Bam, Nightshade. Nightshade, that's a cool name. Like that one. Cold Brews, all one. The absolutely fantastically named Paradoxical Anomaly. That should be the name of a show. It really should. We have got V Lash. Is that virtual eyelashes or virtually been drunk? I have no idea. Boy Solomon. Your dad was a rascal, wasn't he? He was a bit of a character. Telling you back in the day. We've got Psycho Dave. The one, the only. Onslow. We've got the one that confuses me and is a paradoxical oxymoron. We've got Little Giant in there. We have got Jimmy's shadow self. Rockin' Rio is over there. We've got Billy Ray kicking back in the Wookiee cave today as well. And hey, there's been Twitter DMs exchanged a few weeks ago. Mountains are being moved. Myself and the Billy Ray will be on the same show at the same time. Hopefully sometime real soon. Everything happens at the right time for a reason. And yes, I think very soon that will take place, Jim Bob.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because I have to step off for a little bit at the 5 o'clock hour, and I'm gonna go and visit Mr. Billy Ray
See,
Valentine.
I knew that. See, my mind to your mind, man. I didn't really know it, but I picked up on it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go over. He's got a thing going on over on Ike's network. I'm gonna go hang out with Billy for just a few minutes, say hello. I haven't talked to him in 6 months. And then I'm going to come back, and I'll tell you what, I'll bring you some fresh positive attitude from over there at the Billy Ray Valentine house.
As long as it's good woo, Jimmy. As long as it's good woo. Because Fridays, we don't do 5 cents reality. No. We unplug.
No.
Oh, we so unplug from the Matrix, it'll make your eyes bleed. But we've got Malaya, the waffle buddy, and the brilliant, last but not least, Carol. Over in the chat room. We've got people over on the YouTube as well. It's the one show that we simulcast. And of course, we've just had Thanksgiving over in the US. It's one of the few Americanisms that hasn't traveled across the pond yet. I say yet because you never know. Halloween has become very Americanized over here. They have proms in high school now. Proms in high school? That was the kind of thing you watched on teenage movies when I was growing up. But thus far, Thanksgiving hasn't made it over here. But that doesn't mean that I take time out, or I don't take time out, to find out how my American friends, how they spent it, and whether or not they had a good time. And I know Kevin, in particular, we'll go to Kevin first, because he's got a bit of woo attached to his Thanksgiving. So Kevin, welcome, man. We're ready to go. And I'm ready to pass the chalice of paranormal woo over to you, sir. It's not a talking stick we've got here. It's a chalice of woo.
Well, I would love to take of the bounty of the chalice of woo, but all it is magic with a K water and nothing else. So don't get your illumination tentacles reaching out. But currently in my home, as some may know, that every now and then I get experiences in the home that I am not able to wrap my scientific method of discernment around. And lately, my youngest has noticed this. And what occurred, actually it occurred last week, the day after Freaky Friday that we had with Scotty on Saturday.
The bees.
Yeah, so the buzz in my home is my daughter. She's a very active individual, and she wanted me to count the seconds on how long it would take for her to run from my bedroom downstairs into the spare bedroom and back again. So she turns on the lights, starts in my room, and she goes, and I start counting. And she was able to do it in 28 seconds. And she's like, I bet I can beat that. So then she says, go. I start counting. She runs to my room, runs downstairs. And as soon as she gets downstairs, she screams and comes running back up. And she asked her older sister, did you go down there and close the door? And her older sister is like, no, I've been sitting here on the couch the whole time. So apparently, when she went running down the stairs, there's a door that goes between our main room and from a kind of a hallway room. And that door was shut. And it wasn't shut when she did the first run. But then not only did that happen, as she was explaining what happened, she walked into the hallway and then she goes, did you shut off Dad's bedroom light? And the oldest said, no, I've told you I've been sitting here on the floor. So not only did this door close in the basement, but my light went off in my bedroom. And my first initial sensation as I put my feelers out there to try to extrapolate around what's occurring, because I do believe in visitation by entities beyond this physical realm, what they are, semantics of what they may be, but I didn't feel it was anything disruptive or negative. And I felt that it was either my father, who comes to visit us, I believe, every now and then, or some of the other entities that come to visit me, and they're trying to make their self known. Lately, I have been wanting to find my old cassette recorder and start doing some recording at night and just turning it on and letting it record over the night to see if I can get anything. Because sometimes I feel, I think I shared about the radio the one time with the static. And so I'd like to see if I can get some hardcore evidence, because I've had a few entities that have come into my home, self-proclaimed humans, that have come into my home and noticed some incidents. But the second occurrence that happened is because of the holiday of thanks for taking everything from the Native Americans Day, Thanksgiving, we celebrate it old school, and we do the whole fixings and everything. And so we were making stuffing from scratch. So we take our bread and we cube it up, and then we season it, and then we toast it in the oven. For some reason, my stove, when they turned on the oven, the upper element, the heating element, would not shut off. And it kept getting hotter and hotter. But my daughters didn't notice this, so when they put the breadcrumbs in to toast them up, next thing you know, they started smoking within 4 or 5 minutes. And then my daughter went to open up the oven, and as soon as you open up the oven, it caused that extra oxygen to come into the oven, and they started on fire.
It's like the movie Backdraft, man. You open the door and woof, just goes up,
yes,
right?
Exactly. And so my daughters, incredible as they are, they took care of the fire, but then the heating element would not shut off. We shut the stove off, and it still wouldn't shut the upper element off. My daughters had to go downstairs to the circuit breaker and shut off the breakers in order to shut the burner off. And so I had an individual, we have friends that are at the beck and call in the event emergencies, because I'm
good.
I plan accordingly. And I like to have plan A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, but I won't ever go up to the 17th letter. But
good man.
We have our backup plans. And so an entity down the street came over and checked it. And we even tried turning back on the breakers. And even when we turn the breakers on and the stove is off, no digital lights are on, the element immediately started up again and just kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So we eventually just pulled the stove away from the wall and unplugged it. And so now I was stoveless for Thanksgiving. And so we purchased a hot plate, and by the incredible motivation of my daughters, we still were able to have pretty much all the fixings, except we didn't get to have acorn squash, which was a little bit of a bummer.
Well, listen, I'm glad you got your dinner. That's one thing, okay? I'm even more pleased that you're okay and it didn't turn into anything too serious. But you were sharing with me and Jimmy before the show, and you didn't really get into it. But you actually had dreamt something about a burning cooker some time ago, right?
Yes. Well, that in itself is the irony about it, because 2 years ago, I was looking into replacing the stove because we had a stovetop burner that when you turned it on to medium, it would go to like high. And so we were looking at maybe I should just replace the stove. And because of that concern of the burner, I had a dream that the elements inside the oven would turn on and not stop and just get higher and higher and hotter. And so this added to the whole thing of what occurred. And I can't confirm or deny that the minute that this occurrence happened, that my favorite entity of divination, Deborah Vardner, who sometimes is on the paranormal portal, and she uses her tools of divination to help people out with readings, that I gave her a call and said, hey, this is what happened in my home. Can you ask through your tools what your senses are telling you? Because I like to look at things from many different perspectives. And I am fortunate that I have a few people in my corner that are willing to add to that assessment. And I know if worse comes to worse, I can call you my brother and say, hey, let's get Bill Bean.
I have got no idea what I can do for you, dude. I tell you, I'm worse than Shaggy out of Scooby-Doo in these situations. I truly am. I'm sitting here listening, though. And I know you've got an opinion on these entities, these spirits, where you're not too concerned with whether they're coming or going or not. And I'll get Jimmy's take on this one before I get you back on this, Kev. What do you think to that, Jimmy? You know, would you be comfortable? Is it for you to have these energies, these spirits lingering around, giving them a foothold in your property, man? What say you, Jimmy? Would you dabble with that? Or would you be like me, running for the hills, man?
Well, I have to say, any dabbling is never a good idea. Let me just say that. But I mean, if you're gonna get out of the boat, you got to go all the way, man. So no, I don't dabble in these dark practices, only because I've had experiences with them. And you know, when you have experiences that are necessarily all that good, I mean, the last thing you want to do is confront the blackest of hates or the evil that permeates some of these situations, you know. And I mean, it's a dangerous scene. Naysay is one powerful Native American shaman dude, though. He's got drums. He's got ancient smokes he can send to the skies.
I think it's different, though. I mean, you do. I mean, you have a different kind of knowledge set, Kevin. A different kind of perspective than, say, definitely me. And I mean, how do you kind of how would you explain how you test a positive entity against a negative one? How would you know for sure, dude?
I'm assuming that you were asking
me
on that one.
I mean, like I know that they come in different vibrations, some good, some bad, like you've explained before. But how do you know for sure? Because that whole trickster thing lies out there, man. And even if you get a bunch of good ghouls turning up, they're still ghouls. And then other bad ghouls might see them and they might think, oh, Goblin Central down there. There we go. There's a door that's open. It's a portal, Kev.
Well, you're absolutely correct, because in my physical realm, I've met self-proclaimed human beings that you think are the best that they can be, but then all of a sudden you find that dark side. People don't know me my entire existence. There was a time when I was making decisions that weren't adding to the positiveness of the universe. And so I like to believe, feel, or think that any entity has the ability to make the choice between positiveness, neutrality, or negativity. I notice that when you challenge entities in a negative aspect, like if you're looking for a fight or if you're wanting a fight, then you're going to get a fight coming back at you. So what I always do is I will acknowledge these entities and give them the respect deserved by their existence. But then I will make the proclamation that if you are an entity of negativity, you have no power here. You have no right to be here. And if you are going to add to the positivity, you are more than welcome. Because I am fortunate that there are entities, as I stated earlier, that if I had the inkling of any type of negativity occurring in my home, I will do the appropriate rituals or ceremonies to exercise my inalienable rights of privacy and ask politely for these entities to leave. And if they don't leave politely, then I will amp it up a little bit more and more. And I do not wish to be in a fight with these entities, because there's been experiences in my life when I was younger and I would step up to another entity that I thought I could take, and unbeknownst to me, this entity might be a black belt and taught me exactly not to judge a book by its cover. And so I give that same respect to these entities, because through my experiences, I have felt, thought, or believe that I've met entities that have been positive, that have been neutral, and negative. And the ones that have been the most challenging are the entities that are neutral. And I'm not quite sure if the reason for these challenges is because they are so neutral, they don't understand from my concept of what positive and negative are. And that they will just exist being neutral without recognizing the consequences of their neutrality. And this is a challenge that I think all entities have when we say things are black and white and not making that discernment of how wide is that gray area. Because sometimes people want that little minuscule line between black and white, but then when it comes to them indulging with sugar, you can see how that little line of gray all of a sudden becomes really huge between how much sugar we should have and not have.
I almost forgot where I was for a second. I was sitting here. I forgot I was on Freaky Friday here on TFR with Kev Baker and Naysay. I was sitting here, and all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, I'm on the air. Naysay, man, let me just say, I mean, where do I start? I mean, sound like you ended up having a fantastic meal for Thanksgiving. Did you have?
Jimmy, we've just been talking about ghosts for 15 minutes. See if you can't keep up, dude. Just keep playing away on camera or something, man.
No, I was getting there, but I mean, I just wanted to say it sounded like he had a good Thanksgiving. He had a situation that arose, and it sounded like you had a cogent way of coming to terms with the situation, and you dealt with it. So, are there any reverberations of this entity at your place?
Well, currently, no. But, who knows with the way that the world goes. Unfortunately, we're coming up on the winter solstice, and usually at certain times of the cycle of a year, I do rituals to where I ward up my home, where I'll do like cleansing rituals to, just to get things all into balance.
You burning because that, you smudging that sage thing. Is that you waving that around?
Oh, we smudge. I utilize sage. I utilize sweetgrass. I utilize kinnikinick, and I also use bear root. I have a little mix of herbs that we use for the cleansing purposes. that my ancestors have used for thousands and thousands of years.
You see, this whole cleansing thing, this is the thing, you see. If you need to be going about with, like, smoke and chasing these things off and dousing the place down spiritually and that, there's got to be a reason you shouldn't be inviting these things in, you know? But, you know what I'm saying, Jim? You wouldn't have to go about with, like, the whole Ghostbusters suit and, you know, getting the sage and the holy water out and all this jazz, you know?
Yeah, I know. The thing about it is too is that, you know, a lot of these entities are, you know, thousands and thousands of years old. I mean,
there you go. Exactly.
Their ability to create a seductive character that appears to be just, you know, just the sweetest angel in the world, but that sucks you in, opens you up, and then next thing you know.
Well, we're on the break, so we are going to come back in just a moment. There's the music, see? We'll be smudging during the break. I hope Kevin hasn't invited anything we don't want in here. We will be back on the other side, and I'll be getting the guys' thoughts on that monolith in Utah. I have to go there. It's Freaky Friday. We'll have fun with it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Extendivite.
There we go. You know, Kev, just you be grateful you actually can't see Jimmy. I'm trying to concentrate on your story. He's making hand signals left, hand signals right. I'm saying, what, why?
I was pointing at him, and then I pointed at you, and then I was pointing, and I gave you the thumbs up. I was giving hand signals to everybody to let you guys give you guys the thumbs up.
I'm waiting for you to start smudging us down, man.
You know, it'd be really cool is if I learned to sign, and then I signed while Naysay was talking.
Dude, nah, you know what it would look like? It would look like one of these, like, daily briefings that we get in our individual countries around the world where they've got the politician there and then the person doing the sign. Nah, it would look too much like that, dude. We can't be going there.
No, but I just mean the irony, because typically, you know, somebody signed, you know what I mean? I just think it'd be funny. But anyway.
You know what I think would be funny? I'd love to see them trying to transcribe my Scottish accent live. That would be funny.
That would be funny.
Yeah, because I've seen it, like, when you see other, like, people talking. Some languages, it gets it brilliant. But you hear some Scottish people, and then you look at the subtitles that's put for it, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious, because you can see how the words that they've gone for, if you're Scottish, you can see how they got there. And I don't know, it gives you a little giggle. Hey, my mind is easily amused.
Well, are you guys gonna are you gonna tell one of your own personal stories, Kev, about some woo that happened to you?
No, I'm getting into the Utah monolith when we come back after the break.
You're straight out of Utah?
Yep, everyone's heard my personal woo to the point of they don't want to hear it anymore. Who's flicking something that's bursting my eardrums?
Not me. It is not me. It is Naysay trying to take a hit. Naysay's trying to hit something over there.
He's trying to smudge, isn't he? That's what he's doing, man. He's smudging the room down.
He's smudging the room, all right.
He's throwing a chicken foot around, and I'm telling you, man. We're going full druid tonight, folks.
Burning the essential smoke.
Hey, there's some really high pitched clicking going on, Naysay. Can you maybe back down? Can you turn your volume down a little on your mic? I think you may be clipping out. It's really super high pitched clicking. It's not your lighter. It's something else.
Trust me, that was a lighter.
No, I know.
Probably
then, but no, there's something else going on. But if you turned it down, I think it went away.
Did it sound like this?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That noise is no good.
It's still clicking?
Well, that one, when you done it, it did, yeah.
I cannot believe how well this headset of my mobile device, its mic is really good.
Picks everything up, man. Telling you.
That's right, especially when you think it's turned off.
But here we go.
Up everything.
Here we go. Get ready. Indeed. It's that time. We're back. Second part already of Freaky Friday. We had a bit of ghosts in the first segment there. No doubt there'll be more ghosts. I've got a story about a shadow man to come along the way as well. But I'm going to have to ask the guys, because I've done a couple of shows on this. Well, I've done a show with Ben Emlyn Jones. I've seen Ben talking about this again today. Then I'd done a stream where we were having a look at it, a little laugh about it. But I want to get other people's opinions. And I'll come to you first then, Jimmy. Now, I know the websites and the forums that you like to masquerade around on, and I'm sure you have seen news of the Utah monolith. Now, before you start, I know there's rivets in it, okay? Everyone keeps flipping out at me. There's rivets in it. I got told it's fake, right? And that kind of confused me, because nobody knows what it is, so we don't know what's that a fake of? Anywho, what say you to the big 12-foot metal pillar that looks like a giant's lighter out in out in the Utah desert near Skinwalker? We'll make it nearer. We'll make it sound closer, so we can add a bit of Skinwalker woo to it, right? You're muted up, man.
A little bit. I was saying a little bit of the Skinwalker Ranch rubbed off on the monolith.
Well, I just seen no crap, right? No crap. This is weird. I just seen a big crazy white orb with my own eyes go like just at the top of the. Anywho, back to you. That was weird, man.
Hey man, I know. See, they say open the door to some paranormal activity right here live on the Freaky Friday edition of this.
That's what we need, man. We need something to go wrong. We need like weirdness to happen. But anyway, what do you think, Jimmy? Look at it, like something out of a Stanley Kubrick movie, only not.
Well, you know, the first thing when I saw it a couple days before it hit the news over on one of those boards you were talking about. I didn't go to it. I didn't look at it. And then I saw it around again. And then I saw a bunch of threads about it. So I decided I'd go look at the video. And that's immediately what I thought of was those monkeys in 2001, A Space Odyssey. You know, going up and,
it's hard not to get that imagery, isn't it? It's hard. If you've seen that movie, your mind's going to go there, right?
Right. And then these dudes like GPS'd it, and within, hours, I think people were on their way out there or whatever. You know what I mean? So as far as what it is, I don't know. But if I was to look at it, one of the first things I thought about is this some sort of a marker of some kind? Some sort of I don't know if anyone's done any testing to see if there's any signal emanating from it. I mean, how do these guys find it? It just glistened in the desert. And he's like, hey, Bob, swoop back around over there, Bobby. I think I saw a glint somewhere in the canyon. I mean, how did they see that?
Pretty much how it was. It's been there since 2016, at least by Google Earth standards. That's what I love about people over on Reddit and 4chan, 8chan, when they put their mind to something like this, or tracking down where Shia LaBeouf was hiding when he was having a war with the internet. When they really knuckle down, it's tremendous what they can do. And they scoured the Google Earth images, and yep, somebody took it back to October 2016, there or there that time. Depending the image before that in 2015, no, nothing there.
Well, there's rumors circulating now that there's several of these things around the world, and that there's some sort of a connection between them all. And there's
why doesn't this surprise me?
Here's the I'll give you the this is just the make believe out of nowhere, just some theory that I saw floating around on a thread. Okay, that there's more of these around the world. They're generating a signal, and an alien invasion is imminent.
All right, cool, Kev. Kev, I know, dude. I know, Jimmy. I've seen these crazy things as well.
I mean,
hey.
When I used to go to the supermarket, there used to be this thing called World News You could buy it right there at the as you're checking out. It used to be all these really, just crazy stories. You'd be like, what? I mean, you'd spend the buck on the thing just to read it, And it turns out the world is more like world news every day, dude.
2020 is big time. But I mean, we should have known, Nacy, that 2020 would throw up some kind of anomalous monolith that is people just losing their crap over it. I mean, you would think Kev Baker being the Woo Meister, I would be almost sexually aroused over a story like this. However, I've still got to keep it kind of logical. And if this is some crazy alien artifact, you know what? I'm not too impressed. Not too impressed at all. I think we could easily take this out if what they're doing out there in space is they're still using rivets and they can't find a better way of constructing these things. Well, I don't know. And then why put it in the middle of nowhere? Now, I get Jimmy's got a kind of alien military slant to that. And I know people out there will be like, that Kev Baker, he's sold out. He's mainstream now. But Nancy, what do you say to the metal portal? I mean, object in the desert.
Beep, beep, boop, bop, bleep. I think it's the romanticism is heightened and is very high, like myself. And right away, like you were saying, the Kubrick movie, and interesting in itself, if you think of the psychological implications of a Land of the Lost pylon or obelisk showing up, that right away they're going to go back to that movie, Space 2001, and then people are going to revisit, and it's going to circulate the ideas again, because nothing will mess up a cycle like another cycle. And the cycles of the psychos keep cycling around and around and around we go, where the world's heading. And the band plays on.
You should have stopped right there at the mimetic implications of this device, making people flash on the movie 2001 and then going and watching the movie again 2001 and seeing what's going on there in the control of the machine.
Well, you know, what if we've solved it though? What if there is a more down-to-earth explanation for this? And you know why I think this story's been pretty cool? You know, everyone's had a pretty gump year, right? I mean, 2020's been pretty bogus. And I think when something like this has come along, especially as everything's reached fever pitch over in the US lately, I think people have been actually, maybe subconsciously, grateful. A nice little cuddly, non-harmful, non-divisive thing just turns up in the desert. And people can't escape into the who's, the what's, the where's, the why's, the maybes, the what-ifs, the X-file of it all. But there's a story turned up, and I just want to quickly go over this because, in a way, this should make you smile if you're into synchronicities and you're into the way that the universe sometimes works. Because it says here, did John McCracken make that monolith in Utah? And he's got another one that sits in New York that looks very, very like the one that's in Utah. This one's indoors. We're going to find out more about it in a moment. But read between the lines, folks. You don't need me to spell it out. I think it's quite funny. Almost like universal comedy. That the artist that may have put this here years ago, little did he know, little did we all know, that it would become such a talking point at a time when another Kraken was doing the round in the news. I just think that's quite cool, quite funny. John McCracken. It says it's a riddle wrapped in a mystery, buried in the desert. And his dealer says, his son says maybe, his dealer says yes. His artist buddies like Ed Ruscha say no. Way the sculptor created this tall silvery object. Now, I heard Ben Emlyn Jones talking about the fact that there was a rumor that there's one called, and I don't know if this is right or not, but it's called the portal to Utah. Now, if we can definitely attribute a piece of art that looks like a long metal object like we see in Utah down to this dude, and it's got a name about Utah, I think we've solved it. But it says here, Jimmy, and I'll get you to take a stab at it after this. At first, it sounded like a plot twist from a science fiction novel by Philip K. Dick. A tall, silvery slice of metal about 10 feet high with an aura of strangeness about it is spotted in the Red Rock canyons of the Utah desert. Now, state employees who found it while surveying the land for bighorn sheep say they've no idea who drove the slab of metal into the rock floor. And in the days since, the riddle of what it is and how it got there has proved irresistible. And I don't think it was aliens, Jimmy. Listen, if I was writing a book, if I was going clickbaiting, I'd be telling people it was definitely aliens. They were blue, they were chicken-like, and you know all that jazz. But I really do think there's a more logical, down-to-earth explanation. But again, in 2020, who cares? You know, I think people are allowed to take 5 minutes to kind of escape the madness, goof off, you know, come up with their own crazy theories. The crazier the better, right? Because it's pretty harmless, yeah?
E.T. phone home.
I mean, this is how cool it is. You can just show people a picture without any explanation and watch the LARP, form before your very eyes. Now, I want to ask you a question now. What is this guy's name? This artist?
John McCracken.
John McCracken. Now, has he got a brother? Brother named Phil?
Nah,
Phil?
Probably. Maybe. I don't know.
Phil McCracken? You don't know? Okay, well, anyhow, look, the thing about it is that that may just be a deflection. And they wrote that article and took a picture of that thing and made some story up about some artist, but maybe it isn't that. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's what we're saying it is. You never know. You can't tell. What if it's a underground facility over there? The Mormons, Joseph Smith, he just discovered some tablets under some stones over there. And that's how the whole Mormon religion formed, was he found these tablets. So there's all kinds of weird stuff that goes on in these canyons and these deserts. And Native American folk, such as Nase, could tell you all kinds of legends of some of these desert canyon dwellers, as they were. The dark dwellers, Nase. What about them?
If you are ready, I could instruct you how to create your own portal. We call them sweat lodges. But the experiences that I've had in these ceremonies, I have literally felt or thought that I was transcending space and time during these ceremonies.
Have you ever done a Kiva ceremony?
The Kiva ceremony in itself is like what we do with sweat lodges. They're a chamber or a vault or a dwelling that is utilized to do rituals and ceremonies in them. And
so the person who's doing this, just to give people, because we're on radio, let's paint them a picture. So the person who's going on this journey, they're in a pit, laying down in a pit, and the walls of this pit are up so high that when you lay in it at night, all you can see is the very top of your hole where it expands out into space. So it's pitch black all around you as you're laying in this hole, and you project yourself out of this kiva into time and space
Oof.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Nate. Say, explain it.
Well, if you want to even extrapolate on that, the king's chamber in the sarcophagi, when it is fully charged with the Ark of the Covenant that fits exactly measurably according to the Holy Scriptures within the sarcophagi.
But yes, I love it, man.
Its alignment to the heavens and the stars would make me speculate that it is the opportunity for an individual while in preparation of ritual or ceremony to log in or tap in or to come in alignment to where you fine-tune the dial for the frequency of truth back to Sirius A, Sirius B, or what heavenly bodies does your rituals align to? And
Are you serious? No. No, hey, listen. The thing about it is, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand. Picture the blackest of black. Now you're laying in a hole 6 to 8 feet deep, just the size of your own body. You're laying in this hole and you're at the bottom of it. And you're staring straight up and you're in the desert where there's no light at all. It's pitch black. So you see it looks like you are just being in this thing without any kind of meditative or, a lot of people say that, there's different peyote and the different things used. But I put forward, you don't even need any of that, man. Because
exactly.
When you're laying right there in that hole and looking up, at some point it just blurs out, man, and you just seem like you're floating in space. Kind of like those chambers they have, those isolation chambers where all these people are into them now down in Hollywood. These isolation chambers where you're floating and it's dark and there's no, it's got this salt water.
Yeah, sensory deprivation chamber. That's the one, man.
Exactly.
The movie Altered States. Go revisit that one.
Yeah, these things are pretty popular. Not for us guys, though, right? I dare say it's kind of expensive to get yourself a bit of time in one of them, Jim, right?
Well, they used to have them here down where I live. You'd go down. There was a place where they had different hot tubs and, different rooms where you could go get massage and this and that. And that was one of the things you could rent for an hour. You just go in.
You think about it, though, right? I often talk about quantum computers, but we've got a quantum computer between our ears. And you think about the D wave, right? And just think of it as an example and how cold they keep it and how dark it is and how isolated it is. And you think then about you putting your brain into that state where there's no outside stimulus. It's just totally there in its purest, untapped form, just sitting there, throbbing. Like that qubit that hangs in the D-wave, Kevin? And I think that probably, it might help the brain, call it coherence. Let's keep it quantum. It doesn't decohere quite as quickly. And maybe that does allow for more, just like the qubit, being in this world and another world at the same time. Hey. Deep Woo, it's Freaky Friday, boys. You got to dial up the notch.
So we have this inner chamber, this inner vault within our temple, and it's called our pineal gland, which, like our eyeballs, has cones and rods to see. The calcification that is occurring with the pineal gland, I believe, is a direct result by the powers that should not be to technologically mimic our pineal gland and call it the internet, the ethernet, the ethos. Because if our own pineal gland is calcified, then we cannot go within, and we have to go without ourselves to tap in and then get caught in the internet.
There you go.
instead of going within yourself and finding those answers.
There you go. There you go, folks. Just look inside. It's the hardest way to look. Now, Jimmy, you need to get going. You've got places to be, things to do, people to talk to.
Well, I got to be right back, though, and I'll tell you what. When I come back, I'll bring some fresh fruit into the green room from over there. I'll get a big basket of fruit and bring it on over to the green room for
Bring
you
in
guys.
a shadow man or something as well, man. Bring in something creepy with you, man.
Hey, I got some creepy stuff around here for later.
Good. You just get going just now, dude. Go and get yourself ready for Billy, and we'll be here when you get back.
10-4, and I just want to say, Kev, I think what you were saying is 100% right. I think you're 100% right on this, because I do think that the technique of sensory deprivation puts you in a sense of, it's like a womb-like situation. You're almost like in a womb, because I've done it before. So you're in a womb, but the thing is once everything's you're getting no feedback. All you have is what's inside of your head.
Yep.
And so if you got things in your head that are running around your head,
it's like when you've got your task manager on your PC open. There's so many things running in the background that you don't realize are pulling power off your CPU. Imagine just quietening all that off your computer and having it ready to run the best game you've ever seen. A game indistinguishable from reality. And here we are. How do you know we're not in a game? I'm only joking, but Jimmy, you need to get going. Go, do it.
All right, see you in a minute.
Okay, Jimmy's going to be back real soon. And I've got a little story here. I picked up on what you said there, Kev, about Sirius and the Dogon. For me, the Dogon are one of the most interesting stories / tribes of people that I've ever had the honor of hearing information about. We are lucky to know anything about the Dogon because they've not let too many people into their ranks. But the ones that they have, that they've told a very fascinating story indeed. And this here says, was the Sirius star system home to the Dogon African tribe? And there's a really good reason why that question has been asked. And we're going to read this out here, Kev. It'll probably take us up to the break, and then on the other side we can get into more of the Dogon. How does that sound, brother? It sounds good. It does sound good. So it says here, the mythology and the folklore of indigenous people is often written off as exactly that. Legends and parables used to remember elders and teach younger generations about morality. But what about a tribe whose lore gives a precise location of astronomical bodies and phenomena that aren't discovered by modern science for hundreds of years? Well, the Dogon are that tribe, and they have known for centuries that their ancestors are descendants of a species from the Sirius star system, 8.5 light years away. Now, in cosmic terms, that is absolutely a stone's throw, albeit a cosmic pebble across a time and space surface. But 8.5 light years, pretty close. Now, we come down here and it says knowledge of hidden star Sirius B. And this is the bit that always blew my mind. The Dogon inhabit an area of Mali called the Bandiagara Escarpment, a stretch of sandstone cliffs nearly 100 miles long, reaching up to 1,500 feet high. Now, taking advantage of the area for its natural protection, the tribe built their homes into the side of the cliffs during the 3rd century BC and have remained there since. But it wasn't until the 1930s that French anthropologists, third time lucky, discovered their strangely advanced astronomical knowledge despite maintaining a very primitive lifestyle. Now, although the Dogon live in an area more than 2,000 miles from Egypt, they have a history that appears to have some intriguing connections with the famed ancient civilization. The Dogon are incredibly familiar with a system where Sirius star aliens are said to have travelled from, imparting them with knowledge hundreds of years ago. These beings, known as the Nomos, are amphibious beings coming from the same star system as the Egyptian god Isis. Now, while Sirius A is visible to the naked eye, its companion white dwarf, Sirius B, was not discovered until the 1950s with an advanced telescope. The Dogon, however, were well aware of its presence, and as well as its orbital period, and told anthropologists of its existence before it was confirmed by modern telescopes. And we're going to find out more about these Dogon on the other side. I hope you're enjoying this so far, ladies and gents. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go right here on your Freaky Friday. There we go, Kev. We are back. We're here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. 2 more hours to go.
A little bit of the Dogon. They're a fascinating people. I mean, we'll talk about it when we come back on the other side. But
do you remember the entity David Icke? Mutwa?
Yeah, Craig, yeah.
You ever check out that interview? That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, this is weird, dude. Earlier on today in Discord, somebody had posted a podcast from, I think it was Art Bell, and it was one of the Al Bielek shows where they were talking about the Philadelphia project. And then the next thing the person posted was the ring makers of Saturn. I'm pretty sure. All these things were taking me back in time to when I was consuming far too much things like Coast to Coast, and pretty much all my time at work I should have been paying attention, but 99% of the time I was listening to podcasts. But I suppose that made me well placed for what I'm doing today. But you mentioning Credo Mutwa there as well, I mean, that's like taking me back to that same time period. I remember watching that dude and just jaw hitting the floor, talking about the 2 Zulu warriors that brought the moon here, and their whole cosmology and the mythology and the stories of the Zulus. Oh, unbelievable, man.
You kind of put a fire under my butt again when we were talking on a couple of Freaky Fridays ago about all of my VHS tapes.
Oh, have you been consuming them again, have you?
Well, I'm trying to put them all, digitalize them.
Nice.
And then putting them up on my YouTube and trying to get a hold of the producers and the directors and stuff and asking for permission. But a lot of them are really hard to find because, like I told you, I literally probably have 1,000 VHS tapes from anywhere from 1 to 3 different documentaries in them. And it all started 1994 doing some psilocybus, going to a friend's house, watching William Cooper present his Mystery Babylon transcripts to Behold a Pale Horse.
Back in the day, man. Back in the day. Damn, dude. We are going down the nostalgia time travel road today with all this talk of things we done years ago.
Well, you remember Eustace Mullins and and Jordan Maxwell, Anthony Heidler.
Yeah, Dolores Cannon as well.
Greg Braden.
Yeah. I think Greg Braden's still on the go,
and,
dude.
William Henry.
William Henry. Yeah, man, he's a cool...
Oh, I loved his stuff.
Yeah. I tell you, there's some names there. Oh, boy.
And
would I like
Michael
them as guests?
Tsarian.
Yeah. Him as well. Okay,
Jim Mars.
rest
Chris
in
Everett.
peace,
Yeah.
Jim Mars. Unfortunately, not with us anymore.
I got to talk to him.
Wow, dude. Wow. That is an honor. Yep. He was like an OG, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. You can never have another Jim Tucker. That's for sure. Anyway, we're going to come back now.
Oh, Jim Tucker, too.
Yep, Jim Tucker. Yep, exactly. You know, the unsung hero that was doing it for years. Yeah.
Wow.
Jordan Maxwell's getting
Kev
old
Baker.
now. Oh, dude, I'm not even in these people's shadows. Barely paraphrase these people on a good day. Anyway, let's bring it back because I see that the network is awaiting. Here we go, folks. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 2. Jimmy Jeans will be back with us in half an hour. He'll be back, and I've got Kevin Nacy here with me now. Before the break, we were talking about the Dogon. And then during the break, Kev, we kind of went down memory lane, didn't we? You know, we've been listening to these shows for far too long, brother. You think about if you add the combined time that we've been listening, all those years that we've been listening to, at times the same podcasts, and then the other ones that we independently listen to. Think of all that information, Kev. Think of all the time that we've spent doing this. Now, not to say that makes us better than anyone, but just when you think about it, I mean, that's a hell of an undertaking. If somebody had said to us years ago, you guys are going to be like embarking on a 10, 15, 20-year journey, I'd have just laughed at them, right? But here we are, and the further down the rabbit hole, you know what happens? More and more questions. More and more bloody rabbit holes. When do we get out of this, Kev?
Well, it's almost like two spheres that are connected by a bungee cord.
I like it, man. I like that. Yep, I like that.
Sometimes we come together, and sometimes we get stretched so far apart that something snaps us back. You know, and the only hope is that when we come clashing back together, that we can catch each other and not ricochet this way or that way or the other way, where it keeps adding to the chaos. You know, but then imagine when you put a third person into the mix of it, and then you have 3 spheres connected by bungee cords, and when you find perfect equilateral balance, then imagine what we can accomplish instead of pushing and pulling off of each other. And then when you get 4 and 5 and 6 and the Platonic solids keep building, I never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain. I only wanted to turn around and see you smiling in the purple rain.
Oh,
Jewel
loving it, man.
of the Nile.
So listen, dude, the Dogon. What's your thoughts on them before I go on further with this story?
Well, as we were talking in the break, the infamous interview with Matwa and his experience as being the storyteller that was tapped to share this history of these entities, of these people that were doing rituals and ceremonies very much like indigenous tribes around the world, including my ancestors, the Anishinaabe. So bring on let the dogs out, let the Dogons out. Woof, woof, woof.
I like that, dude. I like that. Yeah, and of course, Credo Mutwa was like, he was like the kind of the spiritual leader, like the shaman of the Zulus. He was an important dude. He was like their story keeper and teller. Really interesting stuff. But back to the Dogon. It says the Dogon, and we just found out that they knew all about Sirius B and its orbital path, the time it took, way before we had ever spotted it with telescopes. So that's a bit of a jaw dropper the first time you hear it. Now, the Dogon also claim that there's a third star in the Sirius system that is yet to be discovered, and gravitational observations might prove their claim to be true. I would say I would go with the Dogon on this one, just because we haven't totally confirmed it yet. They knew about Sirius B. They've obviously got information that we don't, so I'm going with it. So it says, were the Dogon visited by spiritual beings or ancient astronauts? Or did the anthropologists who first studied them carry out an elaborate deception by giving them astronomical insight to regurgitate in front of a camera? I don't think that's the case, but hey, you got to keep an open mind in all of this. So it says Carl Sagan weighed in on his take of the Dogon tribe and their supposed celestial cognizance by disavowing the idea that it could have come from otherworldly beings. The Dogon were were aware of Jupiter's moons and Saturn, along with its rings, but Sagan said their lack of awareness of any other planets in our solar system was evidence that they were only reiterating a few pieces of knowledge given to them by their interaction with French anthropologists. Kev, what do you make of that? Do you think there's truth in that, brother? Do you think they were like, it was a false star, not a false flag, a false star event? Do you think they were scripted crisis Dogons?
Well, if you look at these entities that take the precious moments to chart what occurs in the heavens, and if they have prior knowledge of these markers within the cycle, then aren't they kind of one up on us? And is this possibly why our own government or incidents occur where all of these artifacts of antiquity and knowledge seem to disappear under strange circumstances, like the museum in Egypt and the museums in Baghdad, and when they open up some of these sacred mounds of the indigenous people in North America, or when they purposely put up a dam so it will flood these ancient dwellings, because they would rather poo-poo the ability of these earlier civilizations and cover up the possibility that it could have gone back how many million years, how many different civilizations? Because the powers that should not be have to continuously remind us that they're in control, because if we would recognize that they're not, then how would we let them control us as they do?
There you go. So if we come back over here, let's get back to our Dogon, Kev. It says here, however, Sagan's cursory analysis of the Dogon did not touch upon the fact that their knowledge of the Sirius star system was represented in 400-year-old artifacts, nor did he acknowledge their understanding of subatomic particles and their theory of the universe's creation that was similar to the Big Bang. Now, Laird Scranton, he has done some brilliant work on this. I've got a book over there, the name actually escapes me, but he takes a look at some of their hieroglyphs and their creation story, and it does have a very high scientific understanding. It shows that they had high scientific understanding of what was going on, or at least their take of what was going on. Where did they get that from? So it says the Dogon were also very aware of our location within the Milky Way galaxy and knew the state of Sirius B being an incredibly dense and dying star. Now, this curiosity also led them to make further discoveries regarding human anatomy, long before Western discoveries were made. So, who were these Sirius star aliens that this enigmatic tribe more than 600 years ago, that met more than 600 years ago? The Dogon refer to them as the Nomos, or the Numos, or the Nomos, sorry. And they're beings that were mostly aquatic, but were also mobile on land. Now, they appeared only to a small sect of the Dogon tribe because extensive contact with humans would have a negative impact on their well-being. In some accounts, the Dogon speak of the Nomos as being non-physical. That's quite interesting, Kevin. There's various ways you could almost look at that. You could speculate, or I would speculate, being a sci-fi guy, non-physical contact. Did they use some form of quantum entanglement device? Was it some kind of holographic projection? Was it some kind of communications? Interdimensional communications? What do you think of that one, Kev? That's quite interesting, that they sometimes describe it as non-physical.
Well, this is where we look at technology today. If we were to go back in time and hold up a mobile phone and let the entities back then observe what it could occur, would it not be the same as the fables or legends or stories talk about people utilizing crystals to communicate to each other? Because if you think about it, if you have a large enough piece of crystal, and if crystal holds the memory of everything around it, and you were to shatter this crystal and give it to 3 different people around the world, if you could tune into the vibration of that frequency, is that not the same thing as a quartz crystal radio, or what we're using with these mobile devices right now? You know, it's all frequencies, it's all fields.
You're right, dude. And you know that I have a strong affinity to my Australian brothers and sisters, right? And there's one thing that really has planted a seed in my mind ever since I found out about it. And we spoke to Donnie and Luna about this, and we're going to do that show in the next couple of weeks. We're going to link the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere Indigenous knowledge and see what we come up with. But one story that has stuck with me, like I say, is about the Chiringa stones. Now, Donnie, he's got his own personal story about these powerful, very, very meaningful to the Aboriginal people, these stones. And one could argue, Kev, that this is a communications device with another star system. So even the stone that's around us right now, we just see it as like mundane building blocks and nothing too exciting going on there. But if used correctly, you know, perhaps first contact, it's all around us. We just need to know how to use it. Yes.
Sorry, playing with the mute button there.
Fighting with the mute button, Kevin.
If I share with my ancestors, so there are rituals and ceremonies to where you can go up to the Great Lakes, and according to these rituals and ceremonies, if following them correctly, which, you know, I have discernment about it, but the claim is that the tides will roll a spherical stone to you during the low tide. And you cannot find perfect spheres unless they've been carved by entities naturally. And the only ones that you can find is these stones that have been rolling upon themselves over and over again during high tide and low tide, to where eventually it'll carve it or chip it into a perfect sphere. And these stones are held with very high regards to Native Americans around the United States. And they would be given to each other for different rituals and ceremonies. And the full extent of what they're utilized for, I would speculate, like we were talking about with quartz crystals, or maybe that's why they collect all the diamonds, because all the diamonds have all of the knowledge within them, and they don't want us simpletons to be able to tap into that knowledge. We got to go to Google instead.
No, dude, hey, I'm with you, man. Just for people out there who haven't heard of the Chiringas before, a Chiringa, also spelled Chiringa with a CH or it's a TJ, URINGA, is an object considered to be of religious significance by Central Australian Aboriginal people of the Arunti, I think, and that's the Aranda and the Arunta groups. Chiringa often had a wide and indeterminate native significance. They may be used variously in sacred ceremonies as bull roarers in sacred ground paintings, in ceremonial poles, in ceremonial headgear, in sacred chants, and in sacred earth mounds. And I remember Donnie talking about how even coming into close contact with these things, it made him feel quite ill. And it's only the clever man. And I think, like it says, it's only a couple of the mobs that actually deal in this. And this is man's business, you know, when Donnie was talking about it. And it says here, in many myths, and the ancestors themselves are said to have used them and stored them away as their most treasured possessions. Such myths emphasize the life-holding magical properties of these chiringas. Now, the ancestor regarded his chiringa as portions of his own being, and is always worried that strangers might come and rob him of the very essence of his life. Accordingly, legends abound with stories of theft and robbery, and the very fierce vengeance exacted. Chiringa were thought to have magical properties. They would be rubbed on the body to confer sacredness onto a subject and to do things such as heal wounds. Now, while chiringa were useful to the individual, the clan's collective fate was also considered to be tied up with the items, and after all, it was the totemic image that provided representation for the group of the chiringa. Quite interesting, Kev. Can you think of anything in the Anishinaabe, anything similar to that sacred? What kind of sacred objects do you have, Kev?
Well, I've been fortunate enough, and I'm not a fan of the label medicine man. You know, because that's more of an Americanized term. You know, I just call them elders, you know, and they can be of men or... Oh, come on. I thought you were on the trigger there.
Dude, I was, sorry, I was looking at the chat room. You know me, man, I've got like 10 different things I'm doing here, but no, I missed that one, Kev. I apologise.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Excuse me, it's
But,
ma'am.
There you go.
But we're taught that all individuals have these abilities of what is proclaimed as a medicine man. It's just whether or not we are going to try to tune into them or fine tune them, or like a muscle, exercise them and make them, you know, better, or a better tool. And each individual makes tools to help perform these rituals and ceremonies. And so I've been fortunate to witness these elders doing rituals with their tools, and, you know, people having cancer. And all of a sudden you find out, you know, 2-3 weeks later that these individuals are cancer-free. Or even, I can't remember if it was a bone spur or a cracked bone or a micro break. It wasn't like a full-on breaking of the arm or the leg or something. I can't remember that, but I remember this elder did what they did, and supposedly it was no longer detected. You know, so is it magic with a K, or is it prestidigitation? Because if I can give you now I just forgot the name, the placebo. If I can give you the placebo, whether it's a penny that I prayed or I had ritual with, and put that energy and focused it into that penny. So if that's the case, and I give you that penny to use it for magic or prestidigitation, if you believe in the placebo, and on top of that, I put the intent in there, then whookie dookie, look what happens.
No,
So
I'm with you, dude. Yep.
are we willing to open up or let go of that indoctrination of belief and recognize through these ancient literatures you can find incidents that would be considered magic happening between these earlier explorers and the indigenous people long ago. Because the one thing we can all acknowledge is that these indigenous people were tapped in to the earth. And we know the earth has a resonance to it. It has a frequency. There's an energy in the earth. And so if you have that ability to tap into that energy of the earth, then would you not, in essence, be able to transmute that energy into the miraculousness?
Well, however you're doing it, I think if you're able to manipulate frequencies and vibrations and know what you're doing, I really do think you can have what would appear to be magical type powers. You know what I find quite interesting as we're talking here, and I was looking for more information on the Chiringa stone. I know a lot of you out there, come on, admit it. We all loved Stargate, right? SG-1. I'm sure many of you have watched that. And I'd kind of forgotten, but I remember it now. They had a kind of form of Chiringa stone when they were in Stargate. And just to read this out here, a device of ancient design, allowing two individuals communication and sight through the other's eyes, effectively trading the conscious mind of two linked people. Now, when interfaced with a long-range communicator device, such as an ancient terminal or a human-built pad. Now, remember, folks, this is literally talking about the TV show, okay? I'm not sitting here trying to sell you this as being, oh, this is like secret sauce from a whistleblower you're getting. But I think it's interesting how Stargate, which has been talked about for a long time, has possibly been a lot closer to the truth that many of us would be comfortable with. They heavily thank the military-industrial complex and the credits of that. It's all set in Cheyenne Mountain. And listen, the parallels between art and fiction, sometimes they're just there, but sometimes they're showing you things that if you were to find out they're real, many would laugh it off and just say, come on, you're just too much into SG-1, right? But this is how they do show you things. So I do believe there's something like this. But just to finish reading this here, it says, the stones allow the user to take direct control over the body of another being, but without infringing on their privacy by directly accessing memories. SG-1 first retrieved two of the stones from a planet, the same planet where the quantum mirror was discovered. It was several years, however, before they knew what the stones are or how they operate. And the same technology was also found in the Pegasus galaxy and is in regular use on board the Destiny. Now, all that's all fiction, it's all the kind of story and the lore of that show. But Kev, you think about that, if ancient technology has been left here from some outside entities, just like in the TV show, it might take us a very, very long time to even recognize that we've got technology, let alone know how to use it. So I think it's quite interesting, the parallels between the Chiringa stones and the Wu from Australia in the real world, from the ancient world up until the present day. And then you've got a kind of parallel in a sci-fi show that, as you know, it's often been said, there's a lot more going on with Stargate than meets the eye. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And if we think of Albert, Tesla, Einstein, Pike, especially that last one, and you read some of his writings, there is accusations, and I do subscribe to the speculation that Pike individual had a seeing stone or some type of natural walkie-talkie that allegedly he was talking to people back in the United Kingdom. And if you think about J.R.R. Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings, when they talk about those spheres that Sauron was able to utilize to talk to his dominions. So absolutely. If you resonate at a specific frequency that is as individualistic as your thumbprint, then you can be detected through after the break.
We will. Hold that thought, or hold that frequency. The truth frequency.
And we'll detect you.
Yes, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks. Oh no. Hang on, I hung up on Kev by mistake. Wait till I get Kev back. Disaster. Disaster. It always happens once, right? There we go. Okay, we'll try that in a minute. That was going on forever and ever there, right? Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to shove some music on, folks. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. One moment in time. I can't sing, I know.
Or the iTunes App Store. If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water.
There we go, there we go. There we go. We'll go back to that in a moment. There we go. We're ready. We're nearly ready anyway. Put the music back on just now. Hold on.
Water123.com. 123.com.
Yes, you're here. Yes, you're here, Macy. Yes, we've got you back, man. Oh,
I like that music.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, right?
Right?
Yeah. Not very often I come up with something slightly apt for the show, but I think this fits Freaky Friday.
You should get Jimmy. He's musically brilliant.
Sorry, what was that, dude?
I was just talking about Jimmy Jean and how brilliant he is there musically.
I'm really wanting to get Bill Bean on one of those like crazy guitars he's got in the background. He's a bit of a whiz on the guitar, as our Mr. Bean. I think we're gonna have to get. Yeah, so is Don Wiskin. He was singing songs to me before we done the show the other night. It was absolutely spectacular, and I've made him promise that he will sing. He will be singing the next time he comes on KBS. Don Wiskin is absolutely awesome. He plays with like a bunch of friends as well, and he sent me a video one time. This was as good as any, like, we used to have like Highland dances, and you know, you'd go to the local village and it'd be in the village hall, and you'd have some good bands going there. Tell you what, Don Wiskin's band would have gone down a damn treat. Absolutely crazy, so I'm looking forward to hearing that the next time he's on KBS. I'm just looking at the clock here, dude. We've got a couple of seconds. On you go, man.
If I was to let my ego out of the closet,
don't do it.
When it comes to singing, I will go there.
Yeah, I would
'cause,
imagine you're pretty. Now I'm going to bring it back. Here we go. Let's bring this back. And Jimmy Jeans is back as well. Here we go. Here we go. And just like that, we were back. We're live. Moving into the second half of today's Freaky Friday right here on TFRlive.com. And don't go anywhere after Freaky Friday. The live radio just keeps on coming at you. Brent Thomas, the amazing Brent. He'll be inviting you through the paranormal portal right after Freaky Friday. I think it's brilliant scheduling. I don't think it was intentional by the Geos, but it worked out beautiful. You know, you get 3 hours of Freaky Friday. We descend, you know, increasingly over each segment towards the paranormal portal. And then, just like that, just like a Stargate that we were talking about before the break. You see how I unintentionally done that? I honestly unintentionally done that. I got back to what we were talking about. It's how we roll here. It's freaky. It's a Thanksgiving freaky. Turn down the lights. Come on, turn them down. We're going to get even freakier now. Jimmy Jeans is back with us. Jimmy, before I hand back to Kevin, we'll bring you up to speed on what's going on. How did it go with Billy Ray?
Oh, it was good. It was good, man. We're just talking about the technology, the heinous technology that's available, the mark of the beast, and all that kind of stuff.
Good stuff.
You know how it is. The mark of the beast always comes up. Whenever you talk about technology, you gotta balance it out with a little mark of the beast.
If you say so. If you say so. Well, we'll go back to our technology, our ancient technology that we were getting into.
Sweet.
Yes. Ancient communication stones. Maybe. Perhaps. Well, the Australians, the Aboriginal people, they definitely have the Chiringa stone. Now, before the break, I was speculating. The back end of Speculation Island, in fact, I was setting sail for uncharted waters. I was going that far out. I don't know if they hide things like that in Stargate. I don't know. But could they? Yeah, they could. And where did all of these ancient civilizations, take your pick, where did they come up with this information? Why is it the Dogon we're talking about, non-physical communications and non-physical entities, that we're teaching them all about the stars, teaching them our place in the Milky Way? A bunch of nomads in the desert. What's that all about? And yet we finally catch up to what they've known for hundreds of years. Remember, there was carvings, there was ornaments 400 years old that showed they had a knowledge of Sirius B long time ago. And then we build telescopes. Yeah, big clever people we are today. And we think we're so intelligent, but really all we're doing is going back and confirming what ancient people have long known before. Yes, indeed. I wonder what the Dogon think when they see us, you know, lording over the latest telescope that we're going to be sending into space, or it's going to be opening up and showing us all these things. They're probably going to hurry up, guys, catch us up. You know, so Kev, I'm going to come back to you first, and I'll come to you, Jimmy, on ancient civilizations, lost civilizations, all the good kind of deep woo that we can get into. But Kev, back to you, brother, because you got cut off rudely by the break at the end of the first half there.
Well, I was just going on the speculation or scientifically explained as our smart mobile devices are utilized as hyper techno walkie-talkies. If these crystals or if these stones are used specifically for a purpose, then it seems scientifically sound, because I'm sure there's a few stones that each of us, if they were handled intensely, would get us seeing stars and squawking and talking.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yelp. I got you, man. I was there. I got you. See, I'm on the ball now, man. My mind to your mind to my mind. We're melded, dude. We're melded.
Those two spheres with that rubber band.
Absolutely,
the bungee cord,
man. I tell you, man.
And now we have the third.
Yep. You know, usually found just off the starboard bow of Uranus. But anyway, if we go back to Jimmy Jeans now,
The Stargate.
the Stargate bound or starboard, who knows? This
Just
is
the tip.
descending into craziness. Jimmy, rescue us! Come on.
Those pylons are bringing the aliens down, and now the probing shall
Oh,
commence.
just the tip, Jimmy. Just the tip. You're muted up, brother. Look at Jimmy. Look at that. He's struggling with our modern communication device. Give the man a stone.
Push the button.
I didn't say anything. I just put my mic up to my face because I gotta say, you guys, especially what you just said there, and they say you unknowingly tapped into something very intense we can't talk about on the show, but that is the Stargate.
I like that, dude. You flung that carrot out there, right? You showed the audience and you went, not here. No.
Yeah, but
like
the
it.
thing is the Stargate and the concept of it, almost like when you're being born, like what we were talking about earlier in that deprivation tank, when you're in the womb and you come out, and
The
you come
Matrix.
out in the water,
Okay, so
You
let
just-
me ask you then, right? We're in the womb. And it's highly speculatory, right? But when does the soul go in there, Jim? And do we choose to jump in there? When we see the light, is that really the tunnel, the birth canal, the light at the end of it? Or are we just going round in a cycle of the psychos, as Kev calls it?
I think so. I mean, maybe the soul, infuses into the person the moment they're born.
You know what scares me? I had a guest on the other night, Malaya. Big shout out to her. You know what terrifies me, Jimmy? Me, you, and Kev have done this many times before, in different forms, different guises, different me, different you. But we've done this before, dude. That terrifies me. How do we keep coming back to here, Jim? How did we get back here? You know?
Well, maybe one of these days we'll win, and then we won't have to come back.
No, I don't think it's
I
about
don't
winning.
want to win.
I don't want to
lose.
win either.
Until the battle is through, I'm afraid we'll have to keep coming.
I think it's
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I think it's all a training camp, it's a boot camp. You know,
So-
maybe it's meant to be tough. No, but it's not meant to be milk and honey. We go back to milk and honey, dude. We came from milk and honey. It got boring there.
And speaking of milk and honey, what I was thinking about was the Bush telephone.
Oh, no way, man. Oh, Jimbo. My mind to your mind is melded, because after the Chiringas, that's where I was going to go.
Perfect.
Take it
Let's
away,
get
man.
into
No,
the-
you take it away, dude. What were you thinking about it?
Well, I heard you guys talking about it before, and it was really interesting. I think wasn't it Mammy bringing
Luna.
that up?
Luna.
Luna brought up the Bush telephone.
Luna
yeah,
and
I mean, it's-
Donnie, they communicate. They literally use Bush telephone.
Well, she's in the chat room. I just saw her a minute ago over there. So maybe, I don't know, you guys. But yeah, I'm interested in it. Why don't you break it down a little bit for me? Because when you guys brought it up before, it really interested in me. And I didn't really get a chance to hear a lot of it.
Well,
So do you have a Bush telephone sort of concept over with your people, Nese?
Well, if you think in the earliest technology, the drum, you could be miles away from each other and you start beating the drum and you communicate with that drum, or going beyond that, smoke signals, you're communicating. So if these rituals and ceremonies are there where you can create a sweat lodge or you can create a dwelling, a vault, a cage, whatever, semantics. When you tap in, and then when you become more frequent involvement with somebody and you start resonating on the same frequency, then lo and behold, the connection is made, dial 9 for operator assistance, or 0 or 1 or 1 and zeros. Type the program.
I don't have it, Jim, but I can tell you for a fact, Nano Girl has it, because she really has. And I'll keep telling this until I go to the grave, because it was so freaky. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. You know my life, Jimmy, it's like a bloody roller coaster. But every day is one day closer to the next crisis, right? And like, so on point, so on time. Nano Girl, and it was weird because there used to be this place we would go to and work. You do a perimeter patrol, and there was like a pump house at the far end of the retail park, and you could go in there for like 10, 15, 45, 50 minutes skive, you know. And the amount of times I'd be in there, maybe having a cigarette, just something on my mind, and boom. You alright, Kev? Message from Nano Girl. Now that to me is another evidence of, call it the bush telegraph, call it the ethernet that connects all of our minds. That soul thing that we started off talking about. I mean, I think that's hooked into this cosmic internet. Call it what you will, it's weirdness. But I think that probably equates, in my mind, Jimmy, as being a form of bush telegraph, for lack of a better term. I think that's a brilliant term. But when you go and search it, there was a radio station or something called Bush Telegraph. And it really skews the Google results, man.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting concept. And also, I was thinking while I was...
Jimmy, I need to butt in. You have to call their name out 3 times. And this comes from Donnie down in Australia. So if you call it out 3 times, that's kind of weird. Imagine that worked, dude. I'm not saying imagine it worked. It does work. If Donnie's saying it, it works, right?
Right, and you have to you have to know the person's full name. You have to use the person's full true name. That's why a lot of people won't give their real name, because it's also that same concept is also available to you for other purposes besides communicating.
So that's who Dave Baker speaks to all the time. Now I've got it. Macy, you were going to jump in there too, man.
Well, this is Jimmy's right on spot there, because if you look at the horror movies and the demon fighters and the Ghostbusters and stuff, they're always like, you know, what's your name? During the exorcism, what's your name, demon? Because as Jimmy said, from your birth, your worth is denoted by the times your name has been solidified. That's creating more of that frequency, more of that energy. And this is why, as an Indigenous person, my ancestors, the Anishinaabe, we have many different names. That's why I say, you know, call me Naysay, because part of it is I'm taking away that power from the powers that should not be, that write my name in all capitalization, because of my realization that they're using me as energy, they're using me as fuel, as power. And so when I say I am Naysay, that is only 2 syllables of my true name. And I won't confirm or deny that I may or may not have many other names, because of that whole purpose of having your own power.
Well, a name is not a word. A name is a sound. And so a sound is not a noise, but it's also a frequency. And so when you're calling the name of somebody and making that sound, and, you know, that's why you see a lot of times even words are spelled backwards, you know.
Every word, like a name as well, Jim. I mean, it's a spell.
Yeah, it's a tonality. It's a tone. It's a frequency. It's a vibration. It's an energy, depending on the word. And, you know, words are used, like we said, you know, you can say them frontwards and backwards, and they have, you know, different meanings, you know, both frontwards and backwards.
Me and you're the same though, ain't we, Jimmy? We need to be told what the backwards words say. I was watching you on a show, and I had that in my mind, and I think you were on with Rio, I think, and they were playing some backwards speech, and I could tell looking at your face, and me and you are the same. I think it's funny. Me and Jimmy, some people really pick up backwards speech, and some people don't. And me and Jimmy, we both love the whole idea of it, the subject of it. But both of us are tone deaf that way. We don't hear it until we're told. It is what it is, dude. But I had to say, I seen you doing it one day, and I thought, I know what's going through his head. Oh no, what's it saying?
It's a language all into itself, literally. I mean, we caught Charles Manson doing it, talking backwards, forwards.
Okay, but let me ask you this then. Again, not to say that it's not, but is this another example of, we talked about the quantum computer again earlier on, and our brain, will go with that again. Do we sometimes find patterns and connections that string together random events, but sometimes they're just random events that really we're adding patterns to, if that makes sense? Like pareidolia, you know?
This was one of the greatest arguments between Freud and not Kant. They were talking about synchronicities and coincidence, and they got in such an argument that they could no longer be friends, because is it synchronicity or is it just a coincidence? Because how do we know the difference?
Exactly, Jimmy. How do you determine? I mean, how do you know the difference? It's only what meaning you assign to things, right? But how do you know the difference between coincidence and sync?
Well, there is no difference. I mean, what's the difference? You know, that's what I mean. What's the difference if it's real or if it's fake? I mean, the result is the same. You know what I mean? Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? I mean, it's all in a matter of how you see something. It's a perspective, you know. But as far as the backward speech goes, and as far as language and words and sounds and frequencies and ancient technologies, these are the technologies they were utilizing.
And they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Some entities.
And so the thing is there's a whole coded way of sending messages through the written word, and it's been done through the centuries. It's too much to get into all at once on a show right now, but it's called the language of the birds. And this was a way of using phonetics and when constructing paragraphs, that the people in the know that the syllable in the second word, with the third word's second syllable is the word that's actually there. And so there's a whole code. So in other words, when you're reading ancient text and you're reading the book that you think you understand, you don't even realize that there's a whole other part of that book that exists for people that are in the know, who have been initiated into the ways and the language of the green light, or the language of the birds.
Oh, I like it, man. I like it. Oh, I tell you what, we've gone from the monolith to the language of the birds. Kevin, I'm sure one of the times we had you on recently, we talked about the wind talkers as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. And don't you know that the bird is the word tweet? Tweet is a frequency. And if you think of two acoustic guitars that are in the same room, if you strum one guitar and if it's turned a certain way towards the other acoustic guitar, what happens, Jimmy?
Harmonic resonance.
And it starts vibrating in the same of that. And then if you think of it further beyond that, when a singer can hit a frequency of a crystal goblet or glass, it will shatter. And when you see this occur...
Hold on.
Woes tag.
Hey, Julian. Lessons for Life, folks. Check out Julian's channel on YouTube. Lessons number 4 Life. One of the most underwatched channels. It's like Jimmy's. You got all this good content constantly coming, but because of the way that trying to gain traction on YouTube works, it just doesn't seem to get the audience. So please check out both Jimmy, Into the Microcosm, and our good friend Julian at Lessons for Life. Julian, are you still growing that lockdown hair again? Please keep it for when you do the show. We're going to have Julian on sometime real soon. He's going to be getting into eschatology. We'll be looking at various end times prophecies, stories from numerous religions. I'm really looking forward to that one. So, Nacy, on you go, Jim.
No, I was going to say, are you serious?
I am serious.
Sounds like a great show.
Sirius
B,
A
C.
or Sirius B?
Sirius C.
Honey.
So back to you, Kev. I rudely interrupted you for that super chat there.
No, that wasn't rude. That was dopamine bursting of positivity and love. So thank you, Julian.
We love the
So-
dopamine.
So there's a lot of significant birds, and the meaning of these birds all has a different meaning, in the world. Like so if you see, like, say, blue jays, blue jays signify communication, don't they, Naysay? When you're sitting outside, you're sitting there minding your own business, all of a sudden a blue jay comes out and goes, you go over there, all of a sudden you go look, you got an email from some Nigerian dude wants to give you $1 million. No, I'm serious, but the thing about it is that I found that when I notice a blue jay, I notice that there's communication coming in. Or say the hummingbird, and they say, what do your people say about the hummingbird and its magical qualities? When you notice a hummingbird, say in your vicinity, what could it signify?
Well, there's a lot of different interpretations, but usually when they talk about all of the birds, that the characteristics of the bird itself will be the lesson. So if you think of the hummingbird, how it's constantly seeming like it's standing still, but its wings are going like crazy. So it's kind of like that, oh, look at the calmness, but it's not super calm because the wings are going crazy. And plus you look at the what would you call it, the qualification of the bird's life and how it creates its home and its dwelling. There are teachings within that. And in my own experiences with birds, I never have a challenge with birds building nests close to my home, because when you pay attention, and I'm fortunate because I hear a lot better, so I can hear the birds, and all of a sudden the birds will go silent, and the next thing you know, someone comes walking up to my home. So this is the whole thing of being consciously aware of your surrounding, because
so animals are telling everybody, animals are giving us all a message when we see them and we come in contact with them. So each one of these animals has its own spiritual quality. It could be a message, like if you see a beaver, for example, or you see a bear, or you see a deer. Like deer, for example, when you see a deer, that has a lot to do with Christ energy. I've heard people say the deer, when you notice the deer. What I was thinking when you were mentioning the hummingbird was illusion. It appears as though it's not doing anything, it's just sitting there, but it has the illusion of being still, but it's actually moving so fast that you can't actually perceive it. And so when I see a hummingbird, I think there may be some illusions in my situation that I might have to take a look at. Maybe I'm under some illusion. Maybe
well,
go ahead.
That is one thing that we take the assessment of the synchronicities or the coincidences, because if we notice a hummingbird, we take assessment of the situation, and you make your speculation, you make your theory, and then the next time that occurrence of a hummingbird comes around, then you make another assessment, and then you validate the theory, scientific deduction. And do animals tell us things? Oh, absolutely. If you look at the squirrels right here where I am, squirrels are really fat. And so that tells us that we're going to get a good freeze on the ground, and we're going to get some really cold days.
So birds have a big significance with the Native American people. For example, you're allowed to have certain feathers from certain birds, and other people aren't allowed to have those feathers. And one of those is from the eagle feather. And an eagle feather has serious, significant, and magical properties, does it not? They say, can the eagle feather help take you to that place, through the ether space and beyond into the quantum stargate?
Well, this is, as I was talking earlier, having different tools for divinity. So when you are given an eagle feather from an elder that has been doing these rituals and ceremonies for many, many, many years, how can that not be more than an honor? And then when you take that tool of their divination and then you utilize it for your rituals and ceremonies, then it helps exponentiate your rituals and ceremonies. So as we practice these rituals and ceremonies with our eagle feathers, then yes, because when I open up my eagle feather box and I pull these eagle feathers out and they have different ornaments or decorations on them, they bring me back to Sundance or to ceremonies where I was fortunate to be part of, to where I give these things.
Hold that thought, brother. We'll be right back. 1 hour to go on Freaky Friday, right here on Truth Frequency Radio, your #1 network. We'll be right back. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. Yes, indeed. We've only got an hour to go, boys, but this is fantastic. And I've got something about the Aboriginal emu myth when we come back. Yes, when we come back after the break, you know.
I tried to come back to the birds, man, because Naysay, I started talking about other animals. I didn't mean to, because we were talking about the birds, and then Naysay, what you were talking about, the fat squirrels.
Hey, listen, we've got squirrels out the back. I think squirrels are fascinating. They treat them like vermin over here, man. That's wrong. You know what I mean?
That just goes to show you right there. It's a perfect example of perception. What's the difference between a squirrel and a rat?
Oh, the squirrels are great, though. It runs up the side of the building. He sits out the back. The squirrel's got attitude. Like a Glaswegian squirrel is a different type of squirrel. You got to be hard to be a squirrel in Glasgow. It's like the pigeons, man. They've all got like one eye missing, half a wing bitten off. They're nasty, dude.
They're hoodlum.
You got to be hard in Glasgow, no matter what.
Listen, you can go and see pigeons all over the world, but you ain't had nothing like a Glasgow pigeon Central Station where all the trains are. Those things in there, they're like kamikazes, dude. Glaswegian kamikaze pigeons. They're all covered in smoke. They're covered in soot. They look at you as if to say, "What are you looking at?" They've got a right attitude about them, you know. They don't look at you as if they want some food. They're telling you they want food. They're taking it off you. They're at you, you know. Oh, not that I'm like obsessed by Glaswegian pigeons and things, but they're different. Just saying.
So when we're going to talk about the emu, that's kick ass. And listen, hey, do you guys want to talk about the totem animals?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Like Kev, tell the other Kev what your birthday is, and then he can figure out what your totem animal is, like what clan you belong to by what it's like your sign, only it's Native American, so everybody's got their clan. I'm in the bear clan. So
how did I know you'd be a bear, dude?
I got lucky, man. I got lucky.
I reckon I'm going to be a beaver, man.
Yeah, and so a totem pole has all your power animals, like you're in the bear clan and you have a real affinity for a mountain lion, so you'd have a mountain lion on your totem pole. You know what I mean? Totem animals are cool, man. What's your clan, Naysay?
You know what it is, Jimmy.
I don't. That's why
Remind us, Kevin.
You just said it. Makwa.
The bear?
Yeah.
Get out of here. See, we're in the same clan and we didn't even know it. Spiritually, we've connected through the Stargate hole.
You know, that's what first thing I'm going to do when we're allowed back out again. When we're allowed out like good little boys and girls. I'm going to go and film episode 1 of Glasgow Pigeons. I'm going to show people that I'm not making it up.
Nah, you know what? And you'd probably get 1 million views,
What
man.
a cheap movie to make, man. Honestly, these things have got attitude, dude. It's like, it's a real thing, man. I'm telling you.
I was just reminded today about the birds, and I don't know if you guys remember a conspiracy theorist of yesterday, Dick Gregory. And he was talking about when all of this craziness of weather occurs, that the birds are going to be confused, and birds usually don't eat honeybees.
Here we go, dude. Here we go. Oh, back to the honeybees. Oh, here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. That sounded like a cross between a Wookiee and a Glaswegian pigeon. Keep your eyes open for episode 1 of Ouija Pigeons. It'll be happening sometime in the spring. It's going to be my new comedy show over on the YouTubes. But listen, we're having fun here tonight. And don't forget, don't go anywhere after Freaky Friday. Brent Thomas and Don will take you through the paranormal portal. I have been almost religiously, they do YouTube through the week. They're on TFR at the weekends, but they're always telling ghost stories, and sometimes they open up the phones, and I've gone back to listening to them late at night, kind of wind down. You can't beat a bit of woo. You really can't, especially in 2020 with all the madness going on. It's not that you're not paying attention, it's just that you're escaping for a little while. That's how I find it. I find it really, really refreshing. And then from time to time when we go down these rabbit holes, we really start to touch on some very important stuff. We laugh, we joke, yes. I was having my stories about these crazy Glaswegian pigeons, but the language of the birds, that's what got us talking about all of this. I've got a good friendship with Luna, Donnie, Mammoth, Ken Rotman as well. Long time listener, long time lurker, ain't you, Ken? But there's something there. I love that Australian kind of history. And when it comes to birds, you can't really go by without mentioning the emu, okay? And I dug something up here. I think it's pretty cool. Let me get the website sorted. Where are we? Thought I'd lost it there. But I haven't. I promise I haven't. I don't think I have. Maybe I have. No, I've got it here. Okay, so it says this comes from Get Woke Book List. Well, I don't like the name of that website, but it's from the Sacred Texts part. And it says, why the emu has short wings and the native companion a harsh voice. So an emu with very long wings once made her way home in the sky. One day she looked over the edge of the clouds and down onto the earth. She saw a great gathering of birds dancing by a reed-grown lagoon. High in a gum tree, the bellbirds were making sweet music with their silvery chimes. The kookaburra, perched on the limb of a dead tree, was chuckling pleasantly to himself, while the native companion danced gracefully on the grass nearby. The emu was very interested in dancing, so she flew down from her home beyond the clouds and asked the birds if they would teach her to dance. A cunning old native companion replied, "We shall be very pleased to teach you our dances, but you could never learn with such long wings. If you like, we'll clip them for you." Now the emu did not give much thought to the fact that short wings would never carry her home again. So the emu, or so great was her vanity, that she allowed her wings to be clipped very short. Now when she had done so, the native companions immediately spread their long wings, which they had previously concealed, by folding them against their backs, and flew away, leaving the emu lonely and wiser than before. She never returned to her home in the sky because her wings would not grow again, and they have remained short and useless ever since. And this is the reason why emus run very fast but never fly. After wandering alone for a long time, the emu reconciled herself to a home on the earth and reared a large family. Now one day she was walking through the bush when the native companion, who also had a large family, saw her in the distance. The native companion immediately hid all her chicks in the undergrowth, except one. Then she approached the emu in a friendly manner and said, "What a very weary life you must have feeding such a large family. You are looking very ill. I am sure you will pass away. I have only one chick. Take my advice and get rid of your chicks before they get rid of you. The foolish emu again listened to the soft words of the other bird and destroyed all the chicks. Thereupon the native companion called in a low, sweet voice, Garalka, Baralka, Garalka, Baralka, and all her fluffy little chicks came running to her from the bushes in which she had hidden them. Now the emu was frantic with grief when she realised what she had done, but once again she paid the price of vanity and idle flattery with a sad and lonely heart. The native companion was so eager to call her chicks after the cruel trick she had played on the emu that she twisted her neck and lost her beautiful voice forever. And now she can call with only two harsh, discordant sounds. The seasons passed, and once again the emu had a big clutch of birds. One day the native companion paid her a visit and pretended to be friendly, but the sight of her old enemy made the emu very angry. The emu made a savage rush at her, but the native companion hopped over the back and broke all the eggs except one. After dancing around for a while, the native companion made a determined rush and, seizing the remaining egg, threw it up into the sky. It goes on to talk about how the sun was made, but that there, I don't know how strictly, guys, that sticks to Aboriginal lore or a story that comes from there. But the birds, the sacred birds, very interesting, Jimmy. You started all of this. You made that first tweet, the initial tweet.
Well, you know what, man? I believe it or not, when I have a story about emus. When I was a little boy, you could go to the San Diego Zoo for free. So they let you in for free. So me and a bunch of kids from where I live, we used to get on the bus for 25 cents, go down to the San Diego Zoo, get in for free, and then run wild in there, man. We used to go behind the scenes, man. We used to go there so much that we had all these weird pathways behind everything. And one of the places was the emu enclosure, which was this big, area where the emu were. And we were cruising back there one day, and we noticed there was these eggs sitting there next to the fence. These giant eggs, man. I mean, they must have been, I swear, I kid you not, they're probably like the size of like a small skull, So we were over there, we were like, we were kids, so we were sitting there trying to get them, we were trying to dig them out, and then they caught us, they didn't catch us, but somebody said, hey, and we had to run. But that's my emu experience. What about you? You have any emu experience, Nase? Have you seen an ostrich or an emu or hey, that's a question. So how much have you seen do you remember stuff that you've seen? Or so you have something to work off of, right? So when we're saying different animals and stuff, you have an idea of what that is in your own mind?
Oh, absolutely. I see everything. And when I can't, then I go into that pineal gland and I construct it. And especially when somebody has a really huge grasp on words and have the ability to be descriptive, I can just basically draw it in my mind.
Wow, man.
So you listen to a lot of audio, and your brain has gone to a point where you're literally generating a virtual reality for yourself because you've used your brain so much to be able to create these visions that you've basically taken your loss of the ability to, that we all utilize our input devices, our eyes, in a certain way that makes the brain lazy. So when I see stuff, I don't have to imagine it. But then, you know what I mean? But you can materialize it in your own mind. Kind of like, these power animals, we were talking about animals, And I know there's different animals for different months. It's almost like an astrology of Native American ideology. So for example, I was born in September. So I am in the Bear Clan.
Rawr.
Rawr.
Rawr. What do you do if you see a bear, Jimmy? Run like Yay.
Remember when I saw that bear when I was living in Colorado? Man, that was some scary stuff.
Not as scary as it was for the bear. Trust me, he told me. He phoned up one night, man. He phoned the show. He said, I'm the
or
bear.
At least
I'm the
run
bear
faster.
I'm the bear that Jimmy's seen. They say, I tell you, that bear's still traumatized today. He goes to bear therapy, man. Seemingly, there's a couple of Glaswegian pigeons with him there. I don't know.
At least run faster than the individual you're with.
Exactly, brother. That's the only thing you have to make sure of, that you beat the guy or the woman or whatever they else identify as. You're faster than them. You're good. Good to go.
And try
Me and Scotty Lopez would be in trouble.
Try to run downhill, man. You know, downhill because they got shorter legs.
You see, if you're ever cornered by a haggis, it's hard to get cornered by a haggis because they run round in circles because they've got one foot longer than the other.
But what about those land surgeons?
Yeah,
sturgeons.
Yeah, listen, don't try triggering me, man. Don't trigger me. But listen, guys, I've got some good woo here, and a big shout out. I got halfway through that emu story, and I thought, I wonder if this is like having me on, pulling my leg, and I'm thinking, Luna and Donnie are gonna like absolutely tear me to bits if this isn't anything to do with Aboriginal lore, and it is. Luna's heard it before, so wipe the sweat off, right? But I have got 11 fascinating Indigenous Australian myths and legends, and we'll get your thoughts on each one of these guys, right? They're dead short, but they're pretty cool.
Nice.
So it says the dreaming, in essence, the worldview of Indigenous Australian culture contains dozens of stories that explain the creation process of the world around us. Here are 11 of the most fascinating myths and legends told by Australia's First Peoples, and I would argue, get this, come closer. You know what I would argue? I would argue they're amongst the world's First Peoples. Okay? So it says, the rainbow serpent, number 1, and I'll get you guys' thoughts on this. This legend is the quintessential dreaming story, and easily the most widely known around Australia. There are countless regional variations sculpted by the hundreds of difficult Indigenous cultures and language groups, but the common thread is that a huge snake slumbers beneath the Earth's surface until it emerges from the ground to awaken different groups of animals and to travel through the landscape, forging hills, lakes, valleys, and rivers in previously featureless terrain. Kevin, what do you think of that, man? The rainbow serpent.
Well, it's so interesting if you step back and you look at the metaphor. You have the rainbow, which is the visual spectrum, and each of those frequencies represent a different color. Then you think of the serpent and all of the different teachings of the serpent, but the way the serpent moves is like a sine wave, which is another sign of the frequency. So if you ponder within the earth, is there different levels of frequencies or different levels of snakes? And this is where the allegories or the metaphors go with these parables or the history, where they try to teach you through these animals of how to conduct yourself in a harmonic or community standards.
Yeah, interesting, dude. There's the Jimbo rainbow serpent, man. Very, very central to the Australian, the Aboriginal people. Like it says, various different languages, but it all boils down to that same thing, Jimmy. Really interesting, right?
It is. You know, there was a movie too. It was pretty
Yeah,
scary,
man.
pretty scary movie.
Is that not the one where the guy ends up like he's like a zombie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Set in South America. Yeah.
Has to do with voodoo.
Bill Paxton.
Yeah. Yeah, but what do you make of it as a creation myth, though, Jim? The snake, the reptilian symbolism in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I really liked what Naysay had to say, too, about the rainbow and the frequencies thereof. And,
the sine wave as well, when you think about it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it always seems like this serpent seems to be always involved in anything having to do with major events. There always
Isn't
seems
that
to be
like your kundalini as well? Isn't that like a serpent? I mean, I don't know enough about it. I'm not mocking it. Is that that right, Kev, Jimmy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, think of if you. Sorry, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I was just gonna say this. It's the serpent as the kundalini, and then you have the cobra breath. There's a lot of snake-like characteristics into some of these rituals.
And then you've got 33 vertebrae. Do you know 33? Interesting number, right? Hey, is what it is. So what do you say to it, Kev, before we move on to the next myth?
Well, if you think of the snake, and if you think of it in a contrary of the snake, what would it be but the bird? You know, because they're almost kind of the opposite perspectives. And then when you look at this iconography and symbolism, like that "Don't Tread on Me," where they show the bird wrestling with the rattlesnake.
Yeah.
But then when you see the similarity of the bird and the snake, they both lay eggs.
The cosmic egg. The cosmic egg. There you go.
Exactly.
And Luna down under there, Jimmy. She's talking about, and thank you, Luna. The rainbow serpent brings change. I think the rainbow serpent is warming up. It's slithering around right now, getting ready for a great change. So next up, we've got the three brothers. Where New South Wales meets Queensland and South Australia, in the barren outback, there were three brothers who were leaders of the Wankamura tribe until they were tempted to swim across the river and fraternise with the women from another group. That is a no. Their punishment? Immolation, which transformed their siblings into three upright rocks. Only one of the brothers remains standing today. Ouch, not so good. Men turned into stone, boys. There's that stone again. We so misunderstand stone, I think. There's so many things going on there, it just boggles the mind. But what do you make of this one then? We talked about the two Zulu brothers that brought the moon earlier on from their creation myth. Guys, Jimmy, what do you make of this one, dude?
Well, I thought cold as a stone. You know, so a world without love is a world where you turn to stone and you're just cold. But I see what you're saying, because I remember some of the piezoelectricity conversations that were had by Christopher Everard when he started talking about some of these obelisks and the Osiris penis representation, which also is another aspect of the snake. The elusive snake that's popping his head up in every single place in the world. It's almost an amazing phenomenon. It's almost like a Medusa type situation where this head of the snake just pops up somewhere, and it's not really the head of the snake. It's maybe just old Osiris. But don't you find that the snake and the reptilian within is a struggle that mankind is constantly struggling with?
What do you think, Kev?
Always the challenge of getting caught up within your own darkness and making those choices, where that story immediately made me think of the three, you know, the Holy Trinity, finding that equilateral triangle and that balance. And it's unfortunate that only one is left standing. There can only be one. maybe, maybe not. But maybe if we were able to find out those riddles in stone, we might make more sense instead of trying to make dollars.
You might well be very, very right there, dude. You could very well be. We've got time for a couple more before the break here. We've got the Emu and Jabiru. So Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory is fertile soil for dreaming stories, including this one about a feisty family feud. After hunting some stingray, Ganji and his kids returned to the camp to share their meat with Werpan and his family. However, Ganji stashed all the tastiest bits for himself, and Werpan wasn't overly happy about it. When the two began to fight with spears and hot coals and rocks, Ganji flew away and turned into a Jabiru, a stork, and Werpan transformed into an emu. Holy mogoly. Now, is there any stories from your people, Kevin, where, like we hear there, people are almost shape-shifting into animals? This connection between the animals, very powerful, right?
Yes, there are many, many different stories of this ability. Also in the same vein, there are stories of where some animals will allow entities to step into them, like what we call a walk-in, where entities could walk into your physical body and take control. Some entities have the ability to request from animals, hey, can I step inside and use your eyes? And this allegedly occurred with some entities that were map makers, because when the earlier
that's deep stuff, dude. That's well cool.
Well, when the earlier frontiersmen would come across North America, and the natives would have these birch bark scrolls or these bear hides or deer hides where they had topography of the map system. And they would be like, how are they able to have such detail with these maps? And when asked, they're like, the birds told us. And then when asked to, extrapolate even further, they're like, well, the birds will let us see through their eyes. And so we can look down and draw these maps.
Jimmy, I tell you, how do we do this on Freaky Fridays? Where does this come from, dude? This is like golden woo.
It's the language of the birds,
isn't
man.
it? We are chirping with the birdies tonight, my friend. We
are. You know, some Native American tribes, they had these guys that would go between encampments and between other tribes and deliver messages. And they would run sometimes over 100 miles in a day to carry a message to another segment of the tribe or to another tribe completely. What do you know about the Indian runner, Nase? And I mean, at what point does the messenger become the message?
We have these things where they're like a daily counting sticks. So then when we had runners, like we were talking earlier, that we would use drums, we would use smoke signals, like that movie Lord of the Rings, when they lit the fires. My people did that same thing from Minnesota all the way to the East Coast. And it's estimated within 3 to 4 hours, we could get a message from Minnesota to the East Coast, because fires would be lit, smoke signals would start, and then at the same time, we would give runners a fag of twigs. And then they would take those twigs, and every day that went by, they would take away a twig. And so when they got to where they were originated, there would be markings on the twig for how many more days? So, like, say, for lack of a better term, the war cry, the war drums were beating. Then they say, okay, in 5 days, we are going to meet here, or in 15 days. So you would have these counting sticks that would used, to make sure everybody's on the same path, because communication is king. You cannot outrun communication. You cannot outrun technology anymore.
Wow,
and
man.
when you think about the running in itself puts you into this state of when you're running and running and running until you're not even thinking that you're running anymore. And it's just this idea in your mind that
I've
you have
been
to
there,
get
dude.
some-
That sounds like boot camp. That sounds like basic training in the army, dude. You're like, wow, man, you're on autopilot. Yep. We're
It's
almost
also
on the
like
break.
when you're creating, when you're singing or playing music and you get into the zone.
Oh, we're in the freaky zone right here. We are mining some deep woo from down under to the Anishinaabe. Oh, and it all links together. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Doobie doo, where is the Skype gone? Doobie doobie doo. There we go.
Doobie doobie doo.
Yeah, I had to make
Maybe
some
you should
kinda-
roll two.
I had to make some kind of noise over that just in case any of that, but probably gets us a copyright. It probably won't, but you never know. Jimmy's the master of going toe to toe with these things. He's the algorithm. He like takes the algorithm on toe to toe, don't you, Jim?
I do.
Toe to,
Hey.
toe to equation.
Hey, you know what though? I was gonna say that music you had.
You mean
That
Right?
I love that, dude. That
It's
is
a good hook.
I'm gonna start playing that on my streams.
hell yes, dude. That is badass.
Isn't it? It's quite chill, man. Imagine some Alan Watt or some Deep McKenna played over the top of that, man. Whoa.
It just makes me feel like you're opening this ancient, heavy steel door, and anything could happen.
It's like time has slowed down, dude.
It just makes me
Like
feel
the
like
graphics, like the green orbs, they start to materialize, man. You're in
Entering
the
the
zone.
matrix, entering the cave,
It's the
going
freaky
down the hallways.
frequency. It's the freaky frequency, Kevin.
Tune in or tune out.
There's something kind of it's that resonance, man. That deep sound that comes in is pretty. You hear it underneath it, man.
Yeah, it's the 808. It's the 808 bass drum.
Yeah.
Pretty
And it
chill.
also has that underlining rhythm, that kind of heartbeat.
Just
mimicking
sounds
the
like-
boom.
It just sounds like mystery, man. It sounds like you're gonna open the doors and just this mystery is gonna fly out.
I love
gonna
it,
be-
dude. I love it. The mystery just flies out. You've got a way with words as well, man.
Dude, it's badass. I love it, man.
It's been a good Freaky Friday, boys. It's been a quick one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Just kick ass. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Captain.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, Keller. Appreciate it.
Oh, Jimmy, but hey, listen, man. Listen, we have been we've been excavating caverns full of woo tonight, the likes of which metallic monoliths are found in Utah. You know, we were flying over this chasmic area, and Jimmy said, "Oh, look down there. Let's go and land down there." And this is where we landed. When we come back on the other side, we're gonna get deep into the woo.
Do
Just
you
like the
remember Land of the
monolith.
Locks and
No.
the pylons that they had on Land of the Lost? And then if you look at the slee stack that supposedly operated these tables of gems.
You've got
And you-
pylons, wasn't Cylons in Starship? No,
Yeah,
Battlestar
it was.
Galactica, wasn't it?
Yep, the
Yeah,
Cylons were
yeah.
in Battlestar Galactica.
That's a brilliant
But then
show. Oh, brilliant show.
If you look at those slee stack, they look like Aleister Crowley's demon and Krito Matwa, and also that movie Enemy Mind
Hold that
with
thought,
Dennis
dude.
Quaid.
Hold that thought. Oh, we're good. I thought we'd missed our cue to go back after the break, but it's just coming up now. One
But all those
segment, man.
reptilians look the same.
Did you say reptilians or red pillions? Oh, here we go. Let's get back to you. Like that one? I like that one. Here we go.
I love that. Was great.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. We're live on this very freaky Friday. Have you enjoyed the level of the woo? Listen to it. We found that during the break, when we quietened down, Freaky Friday is actually making its own vibration. We're sending it out there into the multiverse, and I tell you what, when we ask these questions, somehow, some way, without any planning, doesn't it always come together on a Friday? And some may say we just have collective insanity, but I would rather think that maybe, just maybe, we do have a frequency that we all put out there. And I don't know, but it always seems to come together. Always becomes coherent. About 10 minutes in, after the chat room's done, Kevin. You know, once we get over the initial, how are you doing, let's get into it. You know, we achieve coherence. And it's just like a laser beam, brother. Whoosh. We cut through the noise like a signal, like this. You like that?
Man, I love that. It sounds like you just opened this giant steel door.
That's the noise.
Friday.
That's the noise of Brent firing up the paranormal portal. And before I hand it over to these two esteemed gentlemen, let me remind people, stay tuned for the paranormal portal coming up right after Freaky Friday. Kevin, you first, then Jimmy, then we're going to rattle through this Australian woo, boys, alright? So Kev, what'd you make of it all, man?
It is so interesting because wherever you are, is there a star somewhere within those dark shadows in the corners, under your bed, in your closet, where there is no frequency in that darkness? Is it a portal, those dark spaces?
Oh, the portal's in between, Jimmy.
The frequency of the blackness of the hole beneath your bed, where the boogeyman comes up out of the bottom of the abyss.
The abyss looks like a blob of black, shimmering goo. Yes, black goo, I tell you.
I'm telling you, man. Without the black goo, there would be no woo.
It's the source of all things woo. You want a quick laugh before we get back into it? You know how, like, I always kind of tongue-in-cheek laugh about the black goo and Harold Klaus Vela. I will often say that he had the audacity to say that Kev Baker, the man with the ego, he couldn't find me on the interwebs, so he wouldn't come on my show. Well, we all know I got banned from Facebook recently, right? Guess who one of the first people who tried to add me was? The black goo dude. No, he's still not coming on the show. Just not happening. But I thought, you know, I'd just throw that in there, a bit of a random synchronicity. It wasn't really, but hey, let's get back into some of this Australian woo before your brain turns to black goo. And it runs down the side of your face, out your ear, and you look like Giuliani at a press conference. So, let me bring up that website again. I couldn't resist it, man. I couldn't resist it. I'm boisterous. I'm Glaswegian. What can I say? I'm not even Glaswegian. I've just bestowed that on myself. Next up, we've got Why the Crocodile Rolls. On the north coast of Western Australia, there was a very unhappy young woman named Minnawi, who would always start trouble among her tribe. One day in a massive fight, a man grabbed Minnawi and rolled her around in the dirt to restrain her. Intent on revenge, she transformed into a crocodile and waited in the water to give that bloke a taste of his own medicine. And that's why crocs continue to roll their prey today. I knew it had to be a woman. Anyway, what do you make of that one? Any reptilian crazy ones like that where you're from, Kev?
Well, here we go back to the lizards and the snakes and the significance, how they each have their story to share.
I like it. I like it. We'll get another one in here. I'll get your thoughts on this one, Jimmy, right? Black Mountain, it's called. Kalkajara, or Kalkajaka, or Place of Spear in English, is a mass of black granite boulders in tropical North Queensland. That sounds lovely. That includes 4 sites of religious significance for the Kuku Nyunkal people. Camby, a cave where flying foxes are found. That's those big things, like literally look like humans hanging like human bats. Jalbanu, or Julbanu, a rock shaped like a kangaroo. Burmba, a stone cockatoos call home. And the taboo place of Yermbal, or Yermbal, probably Yermbal. The legend of Black Mountain assumed extra significance upon European arrival, when colonists and horses and cattle would regularly disappear into the gaping crevices between the boulders. Yeah, mountains. Now, before I go to Kev, what is it about mountains and Indigenous peoples, Jimmy? These places are often synonymous with magic, portals, high strangeness, right? And again, we come back to big gatherings of rock. Jimbo?
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's the resonant frequencies of these rocks, you know, in relation to the ley line configurations below the land. So a lot of these places, these power places, with these specific kinds of material that are there, you know, the natural qualities within the materials themselves are maybe generating these portholes where some of these indigenous peoples are able to, you know, transverse into another realm, a realm beyond what we can see with our cones and rods. But it seems this serpent whispering.
So do you think, and I think this, Jim, do you think, like thousands of years ago, we could see a far bigger swathe of the light spectrum? And over centuries, millennia, we've now down to this very, very small visible band. But ancient people, they've probably seen a lot more. That's what I think. What do you think?
I think you're 100% correct. I mean, it's always been one of my pet little novels that I read out on Speculation Island, that at some point the Earth itself moved. And when it did, the circuitry in the electric universe changed, and those ley lines that used to exist ceased to be an active circuit. And so
I thought
think
about the pole flip like that, dude. You see the magnetite and lava flow and things, and that's how they trace it. But we've got electrical signals like in circuits in our body, in our brain. And what if it's like just a switch? Maybe 2,000 or 20,000 or 200,000 year period, we're switched off. And then when the poles go again, boom, whoa, eureka moment. 10% becomes 90% of your brain, you know?
Well, what about this? How about it's almost like a hard drive, is that all the information that's on that hard drive is stored magnetically there.
It's in the cloud. I think all the information's in the cloud, the cosmic cloud, Jimbo.
Yeah, well, so what if you reverse the polarity of that? Then all that would disappear. So let's say a human being had a certain way of being on the Earth, and we were used to the poles being a certain way. When the poles flipped 180 degrees, we'd lost all of our
Wi-Fi went down, dude.
Yeah, our software went down too, right? Because we know the spine is an antenna. We know the human being is a biological computer system. We know that we're transmitting frequencies. We know that we have an individual frequency belonging only to us, all our own. We touched on it earlier with the name, The name is your frequency. It's your IP address, man. It's how I talk to you from here to there. When it goes dark and I want to talk to a loved one far away, I close my eyes and I say their name 3 times and I speak to them because I know they
different than praying. No different than praying. You know what you're talking about there? That distant communication, spooky action at a distance, Jimbo. I like it, man. We're all nodes on the natural network, and they're trying to. They're literally building an alternate network to place us nodes in. And we won't even notice when we've switched from one to the other, but that's what's happening right now. But before I go too deep on that and get us kicked off of here, it's the next one. The next one, Jimmy. How the water got to the plains. The Bachula people of Fraser Island, good Scottish name there, tell the story of how a pair of greedy men, probably Scottish, Weary and Walla Wibbit, I've definitely butchered his name, we'll just call it Weary and Wal, stole some precious water from the arid desert, then chased across the countryside by warriors. Little did they know their tanks were leaking, spilling water all over the landscape to form life-giving rivers, billabongs, and watering holes. That's why Australia is uniquely amazing. Nowhere else in the world do you get a body of water, any form of water, being referred to as a billabong. Come on, man. Come on, man. Devil's Pool. Babinda Boulders, near Cairns, took on this spooky name thanks to a runaway bride named Ulana. Is that Urluna in the chat room? I'm only joking. Ulana, who leapt to her watery grave when she was separated from her would-be husband. Indigenous legend has it that she's been luring men into the dangerous swimming hole ever since. Devil's Pool has claimed, that number 17, since live since 1959. It's now fenced off with the eerie epitaph. He came for a visit, and he stayed forever, Bruce. So, next one down. Uluru.
Hey,
yes.
I was
Jimbo.
gonna say, I was gonna jump in there for a second because I heard a real interesting discussion last night. This guy talking about water and its different frequencies and the different waters across the earth vibrating at a different frequency, and how there's certain waters that are almost have this quality to them that it's like the fountain of youth. You know, you drink that water and the vibrational quality of the water itself is what causes this healing. You know, the water is so special, and especially, and you'll find that a lot of these indigenous workings have a lot to do with
Is that the next big LARP, Jimmy? People selling magic water on YouTube. They'll be telling you they've imbued their frequency into the water and they'll be able to do magical things with it. You know, there'll be grifters latch onto that one. What do you think of that,
some
Kevin?
water that might be infused with some cannabis.
No, see, you had to go there. We almost got all the way to the end of the show. We almost got there, Kev. You just had to go there.
No, so Kev, tell us about the water. What's the significance for, as far as your tribe is concerned? But what are the magical significance of water?
Holy hell! I thought you were talking to me. That I was going to say to my people, water's water. I'm Scottish.
You don't drink the water over there unless it's in a bottle, right?
Exactly, dude. It's got to be at least.
Or it's been distilled for a
it's
few
got to be 40% proof at least.
It's right. Most Scottish people don't go down to the store and waste money on bottled water. I'll tell you that.
That is a crazy thing altogether, isn't it? There's nothing stranger than people drinking bottled bloody water. Anyway, Kev, your people's water.
Well, if you look at the full significance of water, and this is one of the reasons why it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius, because if you look at the symbolism of that individual with the water bearer, pouring the water or gathering the water, because when we come through our mothers into this existence, we come through and with water. And then if you break down the effects that water has, and if we are over 80% water within our entities, then these greater cycles of the moon and the earth and their position of each other has cause and effect with the tides and with the water within us. and especially when the woman and the matrix is more water is within a woman than a man. And so would not, by that theory, a woman be more in synchronicity or attuned with the moon and the earth and its changing?
Very, very well. Could be, dude. The changing of the waters, man. The waters are turning. Let me get in Uluru and I'll come back to you, okay? Let's get this one in, because this is like Ayers Rock. That's probably what us people in the northern hemisphere are most commonly used. But Uluru, y'all can picture it. And it says the rock carries serious spiritual significance to the local Anangu people, and cultural ceremonies have taken place at the rock for more than 10,000 years. But this legend concerns visitors, not the traditional landowners. The Anangu have reported that they're inundated with packages loaded with rocks that tourists have pilfered from Uluru, then sent back to their rightful home because the souvenirs have supposedly cursed their lives. Now, I've heard this before. I've heard Donnie talking about it, Luna talk about it. Jess, what do you say to that one, Kevin? Yes, I think you're muted up. Yay! There he is. He's fighting with that mute button. I'll get it. Let me at him. Let me at him.
Well, I unfortunately I have two different mobile devices in front of me, and then when I reach to go unmute it, I grab the wrong one, and I'm like, "Where is it? Where is it?" And it's like, "Oh, it's the other device." But one thing I wanted to bring up is the mountains. If you think about a carpet on a hardwood floor, and that carpet is the crust, at some moment in our history, something has caused that crust to buckle up, and that is what is a mountain. And if you look at some of these mountains around the world, especially from Google Earth, especially in the Pacific Ocean, you will see the rings or the ripples that were created when these mountains were made within hours because of this polar shifting or this tectonic plate shifting. And this is one of those events in our history that has occurred that caused the waters to mingle. Because if some disruption was able to cause the oceans to spill over the land, then it's going to mingle with the fresh water. And at some point, will this happen again, where the mingling of the water will create this reset to where we'll have to go back to the parable, the metaphors and the stories of Indigenous time to teach us again?
No, we don't need that. We're already going back to these stories. You see, we're ahead of the curve. We're already keeping these stories.
Flattening the curve.
Yes, we're keeping these stories very much in the public eye, which I think is really good. So the eagle, hawk, and the crow, Jimmy, you like the sound of this one, right?
Yeah, I do. That one looks good. I'm ready for it.
So it says the Ingiampa story from Western New South Wales begins with an eagle hawk asking his neighbour the crow to mind his baby while he went hunting. But the crow didn't have any especially good temperament for babysitting. Oh, he done something really nasty. And because the baby wouldn't stop crying. And seeking revenge upon return, the eagle hawk chased the crow into the bush and then set it alight and tried to get rid of it. The crow managed to fly away, but not before it had been charred black. So that's how the crow got its like black colouring. Dang, dude. I didn't even know there was a story. Never thought about it. But there's a story.
Yeah, and I mean that bird seems to appear quite a bit.
That is significant, isn't it? There's something about the crow, man. The crow is a I mean, look at, wasn't the birds Hitchcock? I seen somebody mentioning that on YouTube earlier on. I mean, there's something creepy about crows and birds, man.
Yeah, remember that movie, The Stand? Whenever
Yeah.
that dude Flag would show up, that one of these things would be up there. Man, these things, because where I live in the redwoods, it makes a lot of noise when you're in there, when you're like in the woods, one little sound, I can hear stuff all the way across the way, because I'm used to listening in the silence. I can hear anything, can hear stuff snapping.
Jimmy, how much would it cost to buy a shack out in those redwoods? Like, dude, that would be like the bestest place in the whole world to kind of live, right?
Oh man, I lived in them. I lived in the canopy for 10 years, man. It is an environment all to itself. When I would go out of the redwoods, I would run back because it was always just the right temperature in there. You have this connection with these giant trees, man. That, I mean, when you talk about the electricity of the earth itself, and to feel that, and so I'm a tree hugger. But I don't hug it like you would think. It's not like I don't hug a tree forward with my face towards the tree. What you do is you lay back on the tree and you put both your arms behind you and you lay against the tree. And so you have this lightning rod of energy, which is also all the redwoods are connected. It is such an amazing forest in that when the fog comes in from the coast, the redwoods hold the fog over the trees and suck moisture down out of the fog until they get their fill, which is why when we had these fires up here recently, there was a lot of fire, a lot of stuff burned, but redwoods are naturally fire retardant, so they can withstand. I mean, they don't get to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old by burning down.
And that's like being on a different planet, isn't it? It's like literally being on a different planet when you see all that, the size of these things.
And there's giant ferns that are like prehistoric that show up every springtime. They're gone. They get wiped out in the winter. And then in the springtime, they come back, and they're these. I swear to God, they are giant ferns. They would have, like you would imagine in a prehistoric situation. And it's just all the different. I mean, there's there's wild hogs in there. There's mountain lions. Bobcats, raccoons. So many different. It's just a magical place. If you can ever get, if we're allowed to travel, travel to the redwoods. They're only in a couple of places in the world, and this is one of them. And I am blessed to, have been able to witness these. And
yep, pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
Here we go. The first fire. This is the last one. This tale from the north coast of New South Wales describes a tribe of people who lived in the sky world and could light fires using nearby stars before anyone on Earth could spark a flame. A couple of adventurous sky world people popped down to Earth to hunt possums with their fire sticks, creating a huge blaze that various tribes could use to take fire back to their own camps. The sky people. I like it. What do you make of that, Kev?
It kind of goes back into those historical references about entities stealing fire from the gods.
Ooh,
and if you think of the campfires and the spark, that's all it takes. And like Jimmy was talking about the redwood trees, the state of Minnesota, or some people call it the state of confusion right now, at one time had 130-foot great northern pines that were roughly 30 to 40 feet in diameter. And it was clear cut.
Wow.
That is crazy, dude.
I never knew that. That was wild.
And this is so funny where they're like, well, why didn't your ancestors create the wheel? And it's like, how can you create a road through these 120-foot plus trees when we already used the rivers as our roads? And there is strong, and I believe this, that my ancestors at one time used to build their homes in the trees, like what was represented on episode 7 with the Ewoks.
Telling you, dude, this has been some Freaky Friday, boys. The only disappointing thing is, it has to come to an end. I hear the paranormal portal cracking open, hear it? That's the noise that's sneaking out. That's our cool little music we've got. We are liking that. Jimmy, 3 hours, come and go. Woo from here to there. Glaswegian pigeons. Language of the birds. Spells. Magic. Mountains. Crows. Eagles. You name it, dude. We've had shape-shifting like people into snakes and alligators. What more can a Freaky Friday connoisseur ask for, you know?
Sarcophagi.
Sarcophagi guy.
That's about it. Hey, can I plug my show tonight?
Of course you can.
We're opening up the Chronovisor, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking at that 1980s, the decade between 80 and 90. Should be a good one, man. Because let me tell you something. I was in my prime in the 80s, and I got some good stories to tell. So come on. That's right. Into the microcosm.
There'll be X-rated stories, folks. I tell you, you better have a strong constitution for that one. There it is.
Into the microcosm.
There's the fat lady. She's yodeling. That means we're out of here. Wherever you are, make it TFR. And then he touch that dial. Stay tuned for Brent on the way.
Like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, indeedy. Well, gents, on that note, 3 a.m. over here in the UK. A rather spliffingly good show.
I hear that. I double that and double that again, and it's 4:20 over here.
Always 4:20 where you are, Jimmy. Always 4:20. What about you, Kev? You enjoy yourself tonight, man?
Always, brother.
Oh,
Always.
Thank you, boys, and I hope Scotty had a great Thanksgiving. I hope all of you over there
happy
have
Thanksgiving, Scott.
Yep, to all of you over in America, happy Thanksgiving. You know, every day we should give thanks for at least something. There's got to be something that everyone's thankful for every day. So remember, keep it real. Keep your minds open.
Keep your mind
Not to the
open.
point where your brain falls
Keep
out.
looking
We're out
for
of
the
here,
woo,
boys.
but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.
Jimmy, plug your show one more time, man.
Hey, tonight, 10:30, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Strike Zone, and also on Revolution Radio, Studio A.
Yes, indeed. And Kevin, let
And you
people
can find me under that rock that you're kicking right now. Say hi to me. I'm that grub worm.
And you've got a YouTube channel as well, though, right?
The Megaphone Man.
The Megaphone Man. We're out of here, folks.
Love you. Thanks, Kevin.
Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.
Come on, man.
How dare you?
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Don't forget, I will be back for a special broadcast tomorrow night with Jason, First Paranormal. Yep, we're doing it live on YouTube. Keep your eye on the channel, and we'll have our members VIP stream on Sunday. So 8 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, midday on the West Coast. And if you're down in Australia, not too sure because I don't have an Australian clock here. That's on Sunday for the members only. If you want to become a member, click the join button, but you don't have to. And again, one last time, remember, so important,
Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.